Okay, I am back. Hopefully, this works this time. I had to close it out the last time because I literally couldn't see like any updated comments. I couldn't see the count up here, so I kind of figured there had to be some type of bug. Hopefully, it's fixed. I'll know in a few minutes. Hey, hello, Sister Kalisha. Thank you so much for the comment that lets me know that everything is working. I love you, ladies. I love you, my brothers, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you on tonight. Tonight, we're going to be dealing with the confronting the devil of passivity. I'm going to give you some information about passivity and how to basically recover your voice. I'm going to talk about passivity and how to recover your voice. And I want to make sure that I go ahead and give back the disclaimers that I was giving on the last one. The reason that this here is behind me is because I have a washing machine and dryer. My old washing machine and dryer, I've already given it away. The guy is coming back in town on Saturday, and he's going to come by on Saturday to pick it up, but it is an eyesore right now. I got my new washer and dryer delivered today. Y'all, I had like 2 weeks of clothes. When I tell you I had to wash, I've been washing all day long or what have you. So that's neither here nor there. I wanted to give that disclaimer before so that you understand why I have this little backdrop is so you can't see that eyesore back there. But I want to talk about this. And if you don't know, I've likely shared this before. Well, I know I've shared this before. My mother was one of the most passive people I knew. My mother was incredibly passive, not to her children, not to her husband, but to people in general. My mother was incredibly passive over the course of our lives. And I think the evidence to her that I wasn't going to follow in her footsteps was, growing up, I would do things that she considered to be rude. Now, it's not to say that I didn't wrestle with passivity myself, but it is to say that I'm nothing, or I don't want to say nothing like my mom, because I am like my mom in some retrospects, but I'm not like her in so many other ways. My mom was an amazing person, but one of the things that I remember growing up, I think that one of the markers for me was when I was 8 years old, and I've told this story before. When I was 8 years old, when one of our neighbors used to come over to our house all the time. We were living on the street, and this lady lived across the street. So this lady, she was living with, I don't know if it was her grandparents or her parents. It was a lot of not so good things in that house and what have you. So this lady, she would come over to our house and she would always ask my mom to take her places. She would ask my dad as well. Um, she didn't have a car, and I'm thinking she was probably around 20 something years old, but she would always knock on our door and ask one of my parents. So they only had one car. So she would ask my dad or she asked my mom, hey, could you run me here? I'll give you some gas money, or I'll give you some gas money later, or what have you. And my parents didn't necessarily know how to say no or what have you. And there was this one event, the lady was getting on my nerves. And I think the thing that made it hard was because my mom, she had her voice, but she just didn't tell the people. She would tell us. So I remember my mom, she would complain to us about this lady. Do me a favor, be sure to like and share. Be sure to like and share. I want to make sure Facebook, I don't see too much engagement over there. But do me a favor, be sure to like and to share to let me know you guys are here. I am in StreamYard, so I can only see your engagement. I see a lot of engagement on YouTube, but not too much from Facebook. So don't be spectators tonight, guys. Let me know that you're here. Oh, what have you. So what ended up happening with my mom was that I remember she would complain to us. She would tell us how she felt. She would tell her kids, she would tell her husband, my dad, how she felt. She would tell us, this lady keep coming over here. One particular day that stands out to me was the day when this lady came over, and my mom used to work two jobs. Most of the majority of my life, my mom has always worked two jobs. She was rarely ever home because she would go from one job to the next job. She would only come home, get her like an hour's worth of sleep. In some cases, she wouldn't come home at all. In other cases, she would come home only to change clothes. But whenever she did get a chance to get some sleep, it would be like an hour, maybe 2 hours worth of sleep before she had to go to her second job. Sister Elizabeth, you're awesome. Thank you, sis. God bless you. So she would have to do that to go to her second job. So one of the things I remember was that my mom, this particular day, my mom was tired. She had been complaining all week long that she was really, really tired. So my mom comes home and she goes and she gets in the bed and she tells me if anybody calls for her, anybody comes by, just let them know that she's asleep or what have you. So she gives me the charge. I was 8 years old at the time. Here comes this lady. As predicted, she could not, like, if she saw the car in the driveway, again, my mom worked two jobs, so the car was not always in the driveway. But as soon as she saw that car in the driveway, she would always come to the house. So here she comes. She knocks on the door, and I don't remember why I opened the door because I was really good at looking out the window and looking you in their eyes and letting you see me and me not answering the door and not caring that I was going to get in trouble. But for whatever reason, I think our front door was open. I think she kind of walked in and she was like, "Where's your mom?" I said, "She's asleep." She said, "Could you go wake her up?" I said, "No, she's asleep. She got to go to work." She was like, "I heard you, but can you go wake her up?" I was like, "No, she's asleep." And my mom heard us going back and forward. So after a while, my mom finally come out the back room. And my mom was like, "Hey, what's up?" And she was like, "Hey, I need a ride. Can you come take me here and take me there?" My mom said, "I got about an hour before I got to get up out to go get dressed for my job." So yeah, and the lady was like, "I really need, come on, Alice, I really need this ride. Could you please?" My mom was like, I've been working. I haven't been getting much of any sleep, what have you. So my mom is trying to explain to the woman, she's looking, and this is for you, those of you who allow your voice to be stolen. One of the problems that you have is you keep looking for sympathy from people who lack it. You keep looking for understanding for people who have no empathy. E-ticket, God bless you. God bless you. She was telling this woman, trying to explain to this woman, hoping that the woman would say, "Yeah, I don't want you to do that." Because if she had empathy, she would, when she knocked on the door, when I said she's asleep, she would have said, "Okay." That would have been it. But that was the evidence that she lacked it, was the fact that she was like, "Could you go wake her up?" So my mom was hoping to find empathy in this woman. And my mom was like, "Well, I got to go to work." And the lady was like, "Come on, Alice, I really need this. I'll give you some gas money. I'll give you this or what have you." And she would always give my mom like $2 in gas and never fail. And I remember my mom would come home and she would complain that sometimes the lady wouldn't give her gas. She would tell her she was going to give her gas. And then when they would make it to the destination, after she would have my mom running around, then she would tell her, "I get paid on Friday. I get paid on Saturday. I'll bring the money over." And rarely ever did that happen or what have you. So, which, she'll claim her paycheck got stolen, all of this stuff. And I remember that day, my mom trying to reason with the woman, and I'm like, she's tired. And my mom was trying to, like, "Tiffany, get out of grown folks' business, sit down," or what have you. So finally, my mom stood there and she said, "Okay, I gotta go get dressed." In other words, she got to go get ready for work so that she could take this woman around. I remember that day, my little empathetic self being mad because I felt bad for my mom. Not only did I feel bad for her, I was mad at her. I remember being mad at her that day for not just saying, not just holding her no down. I remember being mad at her because I'm like, this is very clear that this woman don't care anything about you. It's very clear. Why are you just sitting here letting this woman run over you? The way that we got rid of that particular woman was this woman actually ended up slapping my mother at one point. See, when you're dealing with people like that, when they find out or they discover that you're passive, then they, in a sense, feel like they own you. They own your ability. They own your will. They own your. So what happened was my mom, the lady comes over to our house one day, and this is just story time as you guys come in or what have you. But the lady comes over to our house one time, and when she comes over, she asked my mom for a ride. Again, my mom tried resisting her, and she makes up, "Come on, police me." My mom had literally just come home because this is what this lady used to do. My mom would pull into the driveway, and she would come running across the street. As soon as she saw us my mom pulling into the driveway, she come across the street. So my mom had just got her paycheck, and she comes over there, and my mom literally is coming into the house while the lady coming in behind her, and she's asking my mom to take her somewhere. My mom tried to tell her, "I'm just getting home from work. Come on now, I'll make up a name for her. I'll call her, if anybody got this name, forgive me, I'm just making up a name." My mom was like, "Come on, Teresa, I'm tired. And the lady's like, "Come on, Alice, please just take me here." So my mom puts her purse down. I don't think I'm there that day. I was there because I tried to fight the lady, but I don't think I was in the living room. I just remember hearing my mom said, "You slapped me," or something like that. So what happened was the lady came over to the house. She begged my mom to take her somewhere. My mom goes into her bedroom, I think to change clothes or maybe go to the bathroom. I don't know what she did, but the lady went into my mom's purse and stole her paycheck. She went into my mom's purse and stole her paycheck. My mom said when she gets to the back room, she realizes, she hears these odd sounds. She realizes some things. And so she goes up in there and she checks her purse and her paycheck is gone. She asked the lady. And as soon as she asked the lady, "You got my paycheck?" The lady starts cursing and acting up. And my mom was like, "Just give me back my paycheck." And the lady slapped her. That was the only way that we got rid of that woman. That was the only way that we got rid of that woman. It is to say, and I remember my mom holding me back because I was trying to fight her. I was 8 years old and I wanted to fight that grown woman. But it is to say, passivity allows animalistic, ungodly people to remain in your life. Your no will part the Red Sea. Somebody needs to write that down. Your no will make people get out of your way. Your no, you using your voice, you saying, "No, I don't feel like it. No, I don't want to do that." You putting forth boundaries will part the Red Sea. It will make bad people get away from you. And the reason that you have dealt with a lot of bad people, a lot of narcissistic people, a lot of controlling people over the course of your life is because you are afraid of saying no. It's because you are afraid of what that entails. So that was the thing. Over the course of my mom's life, I had to watch her deal with that passivity with family, with people around us. And I used to get really frustrated with her. If my mom was alive today, she would tell you I've had probably 1,000 conversations with her about her passivity as a child, as a teenager, as a young woman. And I think that that was one of the things that my mom enjoyed watching about me. I was thinking about earlier today, I thought about a fight I had got into when I was 17 years old. And I've oftentimes I think about certain things that my mom allowed, and I was surprised. I think about this fight I got into when I was 17 years old. I think about how I came in the house. I got into a fight getting ready to go to school, and I was outside waiting on a bus. I ended up getting into a fight with a girl. After I got into a fight with a girl, I come in the house to straighten up my hair. I come in the house. My mom was like, she's in my bedroom because I had this mirror in my bedroom. My bedroom was like the center because it had this big old mirror. So my mom's up in there. I come up in there. I'm trying to fix my hair and what have you. And I'm dusting myself out. My mom was like, "What are you doing? You're gonna miss the bus." I said, "I just got into a fight." My mom said, "Well, who?" And I told her. I said, "Yeah, I beat her up, because this." And my mom was like, "All right, just make sure you don't miss the bus." And when I think about that, I was thinking about that earlier, and I thought about how, and stuff like that. My mom, like, I never got disciplined. I never got whoopings for getting into a fight, and I had to learn one of the reasons that my mom didn't discipline me or whoop me whenever I got into a fight. One, I wasn't a person that got into a lot of fights. Two, I would typically try to keep from getting into a fight. And three, my mom admired that about me was the fact that I would fight for what I believed in. I would give you a chance, what have you, but I would typically fight for what I believed in. So that wasn't something she felt like she needed to discipline or what have you. So I'm going to give you a definition of the word passivity. I'm going to give you a definition of the word passivity. Do me a favor, be sure to like and share this, and don't be shamed to like and share this. Because a lot of times you can end up overthinking everything. I don't want nobody to think I'm saying I'm passive. Passivity, you're a multi-dimensional creature. You can be strong in some areas and passive in other areas. It is important that you identify the areas in which you are strong and the areas in which you are weak. And you want to make sure that you get stronger in those areas where you are strong or where you are weak. For example, you can be, for example, a strong friend but a weak lover. You can be a strong friend and a weak lover. And so one of the things that you want to do is you want to learn how to recover your voice. So, okay, passivity. I want to give the definition. Acceptance, and this comes from Oxford Languages. I'm going to give you two definitions. The first one comes from Oxford Languages. Acceptance of what happens without active response or resistance. Acceptance of what happens without active response or resistance. I'm going to say this: passive people have a tendency to take their frustrations home with them, which is why you end up having a contentious home life. Which is why when you're married, it's frustrating to your spouse because you're bringing your frustrations home rather than communicating them, for example, to your boss, to your family. You're not communicating. And so you have a tendency to bring that negativity home with you. So you may come home and your husband says, "Why are you acting like that? Miss 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 Thurgood, she's still at it again. What did she do?" She promoted this particular girl, and I've done more work than her. I've done this and I've done that. And the thing about it is, she just has her favorites, and I'm just over it. Every time I look around, I want you to understand you are creating a negative atmosphere. You're creating a negative atmosphere because you are what you're doing. And I want you to hear me when I say what passivity does is you absorb an atmosphere and then you vomit it out somewhere else. Are you paying attention? Y'all, I just wish I could get y'all to share this. You are absorbing an atmosphere and then you're vomiting it out other places. You will go to your job and absorb all of that negativity because you won't open your mouth. And wherever you have confidence, you will unleash it. Y'all make me want to get off of here. You will absorb it and then you will go somewhere else and you will unleash it. And what ends up happening is you end up creating a lot of conflict in your home, and you end up frustrating the people around you because you're constantly vomiting on them. This is why when it comes down to relationships, a lot of us, when we have that friend that's being stupid in a relationship, she's allowing her boyfriend or her husband to take advantage of her. We get frustrated with her because you know what? She'll absorb all that. She may talk back, she may argue back, but she still allows it. So she'll be passive in that situation. And then she wants to call you up and vomit it into your atmosphere. She wants to call you up and get on the phone and vomit it out. Oh, he hit me. He talked about me like I was a dog. He didn't come home last night. Oh, what have you? She's constantly vomiting it out. So now what ends up happening is over the phone, you make an exchange with her. She gives you her atmosphere, you give her your peace. She says to you, thank you so much. I know I can rely on you. This is what I love about you. I feel so much better. And you get off of that phone feeling some type of way. You get off of that phone feeling negative. You in a bad mood. You can't stop. So now you find somebody else in the house. She said that man didn't come home to 3 in the morning. No, because I'm telling you, I wish somebody would try that with me. Come home at 3 in the morning. Come here, try that stuff. So now the peace, the joy, and everything that you had, you gave it to her, and you took her atmosphere into your home. All right, that was the first definition of passivity. The second one is tending to take no active or dominant part. That comes from Merriam-Webster. Tending to take no active or dominant part. Now, I want to give you some facts because I want to highlight that word dominant. The word dominant comes from the word dominion. It comes from the word dominion. Matter of fact, I don't think I pulled the scripture up on my other computer, and I want to pull it up here. I pulled it up on my other computer. I want to pull it up here. And that's Genesis 1:27. Dominance comes from the word is dominance comes from the word dominion. Give me a second. Give me a second. Give me a second. I shall pull this. I shall open this. All right, let me just go here. Read full chapter. We're going to start at Genesis 1:27, and I opened up the NIV version. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky and over every creature that moves about. Now, other translations, I should have read another translation, it says have dominion. So let me see if I can get the King James. Here we go. Let's get the King James up here. I'll read from the King James version. Then God said, let us make mankind in our image and our likeness so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over the. Am I reading? I don't think this is King James. I haven't hit search. Okay, I wasn't reading that. I didn't hear these and thous. Okay, start over. And God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness and let them have dominion over the fish. What you're going to have dominion over? Over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over the cattle and over all the earth and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his image. God has dominion. He created you to have dominion. So God created man in his image. In an image of God created he him, male and female, he created them. He created them. And God blessed them. It is a blessing. God blessed them. God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. What is this saying? It is outside the will of God, or better yet, sin, for you to not walk in your dominion, because it is in the evidence that you lack faith. It is the evidence. Maybe you won't speak up on your job because you're afraid of losing your job. That means you don't trust God. Maybe you won't speak up in your family because you're afraid of being talked about in your family. You're afraid of being pushed away in your family. You're afraid of becoming a black sheep. That is the evidence that you don't have faith. So it is your job, it is your assignment to have dominion. One of the evidences that you have dominion is that whenever you start having faith, you're able to cast out demons. Whenever you have faith, you have the faith to cast out demons. But when you're walking in fear and passivity, then what ends up happening is because faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of God. It literally means you don't have enough word in you, and the word in you that you have not tested it. You're probably still assuming the blame for things, or casting the blame upon others, or what have you. So I want to give you a few facts before I go too deep into that. I want to give you a few facts. All right. Number one, the word dominance comes from the word dominion, and we just got through reading Genesis 1:26 through 28, and we'll just go ahead and move on from there. Number two, the first animal you have to take dominion over is your flesh. The first animal that you have to take dominion over is your flesh. The Bible tells you to cast a speck out of your own eye before you try to get it out of somebody else's, or before you try to remove the beam from another person's eye, or remove the beam from your eye before you try to cast a speck out of somebody else's eye. That means you need to address your own issues before you try to. The first level is addressing your own issues. The first level is addressing your own insecurities. It's addressing your own fears. That's the first issue. This is why a lot of marriages fail, because most people don't seek ye first the kingdom of God and all his righteousness and everything else. Allow him to add everything else to them. Most people don't remove the beam from their own eye. And so consequently, they can't see clearly. So what ends up happening is it's hard for them to understand that that's your issue that you're casting, or you're blame shifting it upon another person. And they can clearly or not so clearly see everybody else's issues, which brings about hypocrisy. And I need you to hear me, and I need you to hear me clearly. Hypocrisy births distrust. Hypocrisy births distrust. If you have the audacity to tell another human being what's wrong with them when they can clearly see what's wrong with you, and you don't have a way to see what's wrong with you, you will birth distrust in that relationship with that person. You will birth distrust in your relationship with that person. So the first animal you have to take dominion over is yourself. That's your flesh. That's the first. You will have to get dominion over your flesh. That means another word for dominion over your flesh is self-control. If you're running around here and you can't stop having sex outside of marriage, you can't stop doing, you have not gotten your animalistic nature under control. You don't have the right to reach into somebody else's eye and try to tell them about what's wrong with them. First animal, first level is you have to look at yourself, examine yourself. And this is something that you don't do one time. This is not something that you do. Okay, I'm gonna do this. Okay, you right, Tiffany. I'm gonna do this tonight when I get off of this live. I'm gonna do that. No, that's not how that works. What you have to do is literally, this is something you have to make a practice of doing until you start doing it consistently, until it becomes a habit of yours, until it becomes not even a habit, but more so a system of yours, a system of order, something that you do. Let me examine myself. I'm mad at this person, but let me examine myself. I'm frustrated with this person, but let me examine myself. Before I go over here and I cast blame, before I go to point the fingers at them, let me examine myself. Let me just make sure I'm looking at myself and looking at what I said, look at what I did, or what have you. Because at the end of the day, when you're dealing with passivity, sometimes the problem is people. Let me tell you something I learned about people. I learned that wherever you don't use your voice, people will override whatever little voice that you do have with their own. Whatever area that you're passive, another person will start taking control in that area. So it's the same thing with your children. You know, we got this culture nowadays of not what do you call it? Soft parenting, gentle parenting. You got that, but what you don't understand is that children are ruled by their flesh, right? This is why the Bible says the rod of correction, the heart. What is that? What is that? What is that? Let me. I don't want to move too fast. Foolishness is in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction will drive it far from him. Nowadays, correction is becoming more and more distant. Discipline is becoming more and more distant. Discipline is not saying, Timmy, that's not nice. Timmy knows that's not nice. It's you taking something from Timothy or you spanking Timothy. I am whatever it is you being consistent and allowing Timothy to understand over the course of time that there are consequences and repercussions. Because if you don't teach it, life is going to teach it to him. He gonna find out one way or another. If you don't teach little Timmy that he can't do that, he can't put his fingers in people's face, he can't headbutt people, he can't steal from people, he can't bite people. Somebody else gonna teach him that. And the thing about it is, the other person is not gonna love him. I love my pink. God bless you. That person is not gonna love you. Thank you, sis. God bless you. That person is not gonna love him. So they may discipline little Timmy with a bullet. So that's the thing. The goal of discipline is to let little Timmy know you can't do that with people. You can't do that with me, and you can't do that with people. So you have to take control over your animalistic nature. You have to take control over your animalistic nature. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Number 3, you were never designed to have dominion over another human being. Their dominion means full control. You were never designed. You have a measure of rulership. So if you the boss, if you have a measure of rulership. But when it comes to dominion, you were never designed. Now, a man has dominion over his home. He does not have dominion over his wife. He has the head position. The wife has to submit. It's an act of will. It's an act of will. I can come here and sister Marion, God bless you. God bless you. Thank you. It's an act of will. That means God says, wives, respect your husbands. The Bible tells the husband to love his wife, and wives, respect your husband. The Bible tells the husbands to live with their wife according to knowledge, and understand basically, and I'm paraphrasing, but to live with her according to knowledge as the weaker vessel, understanding that she is the weaker vessel. That means that as a man, it is not wise for you to sit back and if your wife is outside and bringing groceries in, you are not being wise watching her carry a big old case of water in the house. I don't care how independent she is. I don't care how much of a G she acts like. You should never be okay watching her carry stuff like that in the house. You should understand that she's a lot weaker than you physically and also emotionally. Emotionally, women are not that strong emotionally. We are strong, but men are stronger emotionally, which is why we have a tendency to get emotional whenever things don't go our way. So a man has to live with a woman according to knowledge, not allowing her to control him with her emotions, but at the same time making solid decisions, because women have a tendency to make emotional decisions. We don't like talking about that, and we don't like being called out on that, but we have a tendency to make emotional decisions. Now, that's not to say all of us are like that for the rest of our lives. We mature, we become stronger, and we learn how to get our emotions under control. But at the end of the day, put a little girl in the room, put a little boy in the room, and you'll notice that the little girl, in many cases, will be a lot whinier. She'll be a lot whinier. Can I have this, please? Or what have you? Because we are emotional. This is biblical. This ain't Tiffany. Women are weaker. This is why God gave man the head of the home role, the head of the home. Now, being the head of his home, he has dominion over his home. He does not have dominion over his wife. That wife is supposed to choose to submit, and he's supposed to cover her, but they submit to one another, but he's still the head of the home. Now, I want to give some context. I want to give some understanding as to what that looks like, because I come to realize that a lot of people don't understand what submission looks like. I've talked about it before, but we got new people on here, and thank you guys for 75,000 followers. You guys are awesome. I'm excited about that. I always told the people, because people know I don't like to celebrate. It's really hard for me to celebrate, to throw a gathering or something like that. And I'm gonna be honest with you. But as soon as I get to 100,000, I am definitely gonna throw a party. Okay, so with that being said, now I done went off. With that being said, what was I talking about, guys? Y'all got to bring me back up. And y'all do me a favor. Right now, normally when we're at this part, we usually have like 400, 500 people. That means that we right now we have about 300 people live, which tells me that this is not being shared that much. So do me a favor. Be sure to like and to share. Let's get some people up in here. Let's get some people up in here. Okay, I know. Now, thank you, Sister Kelly. That scripture helped me. But when it comes down to it, What you're supposed to be doing, a husband, I want to give you a picture, a clear picture of what that looks like. A husband having headship over his home. Submission, you got to hear this. Submission is a product of trust. I've talked about it before, but it has to be heard. Submission is a product of trust. Now, can I ruffle some tail feathers? Am I allowed to ruffle some tail feathers? Submission is a product of trust. That means that I will always submit to the truth as it relates to the person. Now, it's two dimensional, so I want to go here. I will always, as a woman, submit to the truth regarding a person. Every woman, every man, every human being will always submit to the truth. Like, for example, my dog does not get spankings. I don't believe in that. When it comes, he's a dog. You know, he has instincts or what have you. He's well behaved, a very well behaved dog. I submit to the truth that that's a dog. Period. He submits to the truth that he understands that I am the master in the home or what have you. When it comes down to it, whenever he wants something, he has a way of communicating, right? I know that whenever he goes and sits by the door, if he goes over there to that door and he sits down and looks at me, he's saying I got to use the bathroom. Now, is he being honest? Not all the time. Not all the time. There are times where he goes sit by the door simply because he want to go outside, and he just understands that if I want to go outside, let me go sit by the door. What have you? He's not necessarily lying. He's just communicating that he wants to go outside. But let's just go to it from a human perspective. When it comes down to human beings, at the end of the day, as a human being, if you tell me that, like if you borrow money from me and you say I'll pay you back on Friday, Friday comes, I talk to you, you don't offer to pay me my money back. Now, I'm gonna sit back and I'm like, okay, because I really don't want to ask for it back, you know, and this is why I don't loan money out. But I really don't want to ask for it back because I think that mutual respect is you need to just own up to what you said. You shouldn't wait for me to pursue you. Friday, we talk on the phone. You start talking about all this other stuff and you don't mention it. Okay. Friday night, you still haven't paid me my money back. Saturday, I call you. I say, hey, um, don't forget about that money. You know, you said you was gonna pay me that let's say $300. You said that you were gonna pay that back. You said, oh yeah, girl, I forgot all about that. I'm so sorry. Can I pay you back next week? If you do that more than one time, guess what? That's what I trust that you're gonna do. That's what I trust that you're going to do. I'm going to submit to that fact. Period. I'm going to submit to that fact, which means that I'm going to sit back and anytime you ask me for money, I know that you're not going to give it back. I know I got to ask for it back. I know that I'm going to submit to that fact. So consequently, whenever you ask me for money, guess what I'm not going to do? I'm not going to give it to you. I'm going to have a conversation. I did this with a former friend of mine. I ended up having a conversation with her after a while. I said, hey, sis, I don't like getting involved with money when it comes down to friends or people. So yeah, I'm just letting you know this is the last time I'm loaning money to you. After this, I don't want to get money entangled between the two of us because you know it can ruin friendships and what have you. You know what I was doing? One, I don't like getting money involved in friendships, but two, I was also submitting to a fact that when it came down to paying back, even though she always paid me back, I always had to ask for it. And it was bringing me outside of my comfort zone because for me, I always feel like, hey, first, I don't like when somebody asks for me for money, but two, I don't want to have to keep pursuing it or what have you. So you will always submit to a fact regarding a person. So let's say you're a guy and you happen to be married and your girl, you don't come home at night. And let's say you coming home at 11, 12 o'clock, you and your wife been arguing about that. And finally, you know, it comes out that you were cheating. You fight for your marriage. You say, hey, I don't want to lose my wife. I want to, you know, I want to do this, baby. I love you, baby. Just give me another chance. Baby, I'll do whatever. The thing about it is you cannot then go to counseling, come home and say, well, we did a counseling session. I need you to trust me. You can't do that. You can't do that because I got to give a clear depiction of trust and I'll get into it. If I meet a man tomorrow, he cannot ask me for trust. I don't distrust him, nor do I trust him. I don't have history with him to see. Am I making sense? I don't have history with him to say I trust him. It's not like you have a credit account of trust. That's not how life works. When you come into somebody's life, you don't have a credit of trust. Well, I'm going to trust you until you give me not a reason not to trust you. I don't either trust you nor do I distrust you. I'm just getting to know you. Y'all ain't I'm just getting to know you. So I don't know whether to trust you or to not trust you. But over the course of time, if I'm dating a guy and he's being consistent and calling me, one of the things I've learned that, for example, narcissists like to create patterns. Toxic people like to create patterns. They'll create a pattern and then they'll break it. They'll break the pattern to let you know that there is trouble in paradise, that they're frustrated with you, which is why when people do that kind of stuff with me, I will address them, I'll confront them, and then in many cases, I'll go ahead and remove them from my life. I'll go ahead and put distance between me and them because that they showing me that they're not mature enough to have access to my heart. I'm talking to the pastor today. That lets me know they don't have they're not mature enough to have access to my heart. And I need you to hear me. I need you to hear me clearly. I'm not willing to become defensive in order to protect myself from those type of people. I'm not willing to become distrusting and always have my guard up because this is how some of y'all live. Some of y'all live just like this because you got people too close to you that you can't trust. So you always got to be like this. You always got to have your guard up. No, I'm only going to have people close to me where I can have my guard down. Now, the Bible says test the spirit. So I'm always testing. I'm always paying attention to the tone, your body language. I know body language more than I understand tones. I'm paying attention to all of those things. So a lot of times when you come across people, for example, people who spend a lot of time with narcissists, who are around narcissists, y'all better hear me. People who are in relationships with narcissists, married to narcissists, got narcissistic mothers, narcissistic fathers, and refuse to pull themselves out of those environments, typically walk around like this. They become narcissistic themselves. They typically walk around like this. And the thing about them is they walk around like this, but then they're always like this. Put your guard down first. This is what they don't realize that they're doing. Put your guard down first. I'll put mine down. Put your guard down. Put your guard down. Put your guard down. The reason they have to be like that is because they refuse to change their surroundings. They're so afraid of losing people that they refuse to change their surroundings. So, in other words, hear me when I say this, they slowly but surely become Jezebel themselves. They slowly but surely they start becoming very controlling of the people around them because they think that everybody, see, when you constantly, if you live in the hood, then you know what? You got to act hood because you got to make sure that everybody around you, like for example, if you go out of town, you can't tell nobody you're going out of town. You can't tell nobody because you got to have your guards up. Even though you speak to your neighbors, even though when they put mail in your mailbox for your neighbor, you took it to them, but you can't trust them. Who you have around you is going to determine whether or not you can put your guards down, and you will not have peace until you have people around you to put your guards down. Understand that the very definition of a siege, and I've told you guys this before, the very definition of a siege is to be surrounded by enemies. And sometimes what people do, and the reason that they're passive, and passive leads to Jezebel, I'm going to talk about that. But the reason that they're passive is because they are walking around. They got all these people that they're not willing to put distance between. They got all these people around them that they got to keep their guards up. Girl, what you doing? You going out tonight? Oh, girl, you so cute today. What you doing? What you're doing rather than sitting back and going through a season of being alone, putting boundaries up and letting bound people see. Bound people hate boundaries. Putting boundaries up and letting bound people get out of your life. This is how you part the Red Sea. Letting them get out of your life, putting everybody in their proper place by saying no, 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 I don't want to, I don't feel like it, no thank you. Instead of putting people in their life, you get so caught up in wanting to hold on to people that you sit back and you're constantly like, all right, this time, okay, this time, which allows negative, ungodly, toxic, and narcissistic people to remain in your life. James 4:7, you hear me say this scripture all the time. Submit yourself to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. And that means that people who have the devil in them will flee from you as well. Now, somebody can have God in them in one dimension of your life, and they can have the devil in them in another area, because in that particular area, human beings are predatory. And anytime they come across an area of your life that is not submitted, unless they are mature, unless they know how to cover, unless they know how to pray, a lot of times people are predatory. If they find an area of your life where there is weakness, they will eat you alive. If they find an area of your life where there is weakness, Sister Jasmine, you're awesome. Thank you, sis. God bless you. If they find an area of your life where there's weakness, they will exploit you in that area. They will take advantage of you in that area. And you will find yourself feeling for, okay, I want to talk about this. I think about this when I was younger. I was married at the time, and my ex and myself, we end up having this neighbor. Lady worked with me, right? Um, and she was cool in so many retrospects. But she found an area of my life where there was passivity. Some of you, one of the issues that you have is that you have people around you, and as soon as they find that area of your life where you are passive, they start taking control, they start taking dominant or start dominating you in that area, and consequently, you end up having to get rid of them. You're always having to get people out of your life as soon as they find your weakness because people are predatory. Not all. Again, every once in a while, you'll come across a person who genuinely knows how to cover you. Sister Jasmine, thank you, sis. God bless you. You'll come across a person who knows how to cover you. Most people, when they come across an area of weakness, they will show you their fangs. They become predatory. So this lady, at this time, I was a babe, like a super babe in Christ, like super, still new to Christianity, still new to the church, or what have you. I used to see her at church with her hands extended, crying, and I was as a babe, I was like, I want to be like that. I want to know what they feel. I want to have that kind of love for God where you cry in His presence, because I'm just like, I don't know what that feels like. So me being a babe at that time, me being still relatively new to the faith, I thought that meant that she loved God. I thought that meant that she was surrendered to God. That woman took, and I'm not gonna go. That woman took more advantage of me than anybody I ever knew, because she took advantage of the fact that I'm giving. She took advantage of the fact that she found that area of my life. I'm a giver by nature. God made me that way. And the thing about it is, in the area of your life, when God makes you a way, you don't want to get rid of the trait. What you want to do is you want to get discernment in that area. You want to set up boundaries in that area. You have, wherever your gift is, you better have some boundaries in place. That's one of my gifts. One of my gifts is that I'm a giver. One of my gifts is that I want to bless people. That's one of my gifts. But there was a time, because I didn't see my mom. My mom wasn't developed in that area. I wasn't developed in that area. So in that area, once you discovered that area of me, once you discovered that part of me, you were probably going to get discarded by me. I was going to get rid of you at some point, because you, most of the time, you were going to probably exploit it. You weren't going to know how to control yourself. You weren't going to know how to control yourself, because you come across a person that just want to give, 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 give. And then what that does is you start and there's nothing wrong, because givers, let me say this, givers love to give. Don't get me wrong. Givers love to give. We just don't like being taken advantage of. Givers, we love to give. We get excited about giving. But if you don't reciprocate that, and if you just constantly doing it, that's one of the things that, you know, we'll get rid of you. We'll get rid of you. That's just the way it is. Well, I don't want to go into it too much, but I remember this lady. I would need a ride to work. I'm over here every time she needs something. I got her. I got her. Like, I'm not asking for nothing, anything in return. My ex, he locked up the motor in his car, and then he crashed my car. So we went from having a 3-car home, because I sold my other car. Once I got the second car, I sold my other car. So we went from having 3 cars to having none, like in a matter of probably months. Went from having 3 cars to none in a matter of months. Long story short, right? Cheerful giver. One thing about the giver is, a lot of times we get agony, and this is what causes the giver to become perverted and go in reverse. Meaning, after, if you're, for me, if I can't be a cheerful giver, I don't want to give it all, because I'm gonna get frustrated. I don't want to be given from a frustrated place. But most people don't know, a lot of people don't know how to receive. They don't know how to get something and say thank you, and say, let me be a blessing to you too in return. No, a lot of times what people do is I'll say this, and I'll get back into the story. For example, when I first started my seal and logo company, I had a few people that played on the fact that, I was still young in business. I hadn't developed my teeth in business. I was still gumming it out. And I had people that would give me prophetic words, say, "Oh, the Lord told me." Then they would turn around, and I remember one week the Lord dealt with me, because I dealt with a few people, and they would say, "Oh, the Lord told me to tell you this," and they would always say, "By the way, I need a logo. How much you gonna charge me?" It never failed. And don't get me wrong, I am a giver. I love giving. So if I feel like I wanted to give a logo, that was my thing. I loved it. But once I realized I was being taken advantage of, I would hate my gift, which would make me mad at myself. And it would make me want to get rid of the gift. Some of y'all need to hear that. It will make me want to get rid of the gift. After the Lord dealt with me about that, I started becoming more guarded in that area. I started testing the spirits in that area. I had to become more secure in that area. I had to become more prayerful in that area. And I'll never forget this one guy. I remember he gave me a prophetic word. And he said, hey, he gave me this prophetic word, and he said, how much? And I this was before the Lord dealt with me. He was the last person I allowed to do that. And this was back in like 2009. And he said, how much I need a logo. How much are you gonna charge me? So then I'm so grateful for the word that he gave me. I'm like, oh, I'm not charging you nothing. Go to my website and you can choose any logo that you want. This is probably about 2012, 2011. I said, you can choose any logo that you want. Choose anyone that you want. Man, did I learn a lesson. He went to the website. He found one I had just put out there. It was 5 logos. 5. It was a set. He didn't go and be humble and say, let me get this one. Let me get that one. He didn't do that. No, he went and found something that was $800 out of all the 200 things. He went and found something that was a 5-piece logo set. He was like, man, I see that. Mm-mm-mm. And I had to put a boundary up. I said, sir, that was not available to you. I said, and I got frustrated because I was like, my desire was to give, and now I'm having to constantly keep putting boundaries up. And I found that this is a message for the giver. This is a message for the passive giver, because you got to develop teeth over there. In that area where you gumming it out, you got to get teeth over there. And that's what made me start getting teeth over there, because I had to crunch down. Because when it comes down to getting teeth, remember when you give a child, what you have to do is you got to give them something hard to chew on. This is why God gives you something hard to chew on. I had to have, the little teether. That was my teether. In that moment, God was giving me that something hard to chew on, because I'm sitting there looking like I'm literally just putting this out. I've been telling him a couple of days to go to the website. He went on there, and then he sees that when he comes on there, and he's like, and I'm like, I said I would give you a logo, not 8, not 5 of them. He was like, but that's a set, right? I'm like, yes, it is. But I said I would give you a logo, not 5. So that was a hard situation. Hear me when I said this. It made me mad, because now I got to the point where I'm trying to give to him, but now I'm not being a cheerful giver, because I'm having to constantly because he kept going to the website and he kept looking for ways, like loopholes and stuff. So I feel like I'm with a shield, like, no, just choose dude, all these logos on this website. Why you keep on going for the one that's a 3-pack, a 5-pack? And I had to keep on. And it made me feel like I wasn't giving from the heart. It made me feel like I was. And I learned with people, you have to realize that sometimes they don't know how to control themselves. Sometimes they don't know how to control themselves. You have to gum it out. That means that you have to do the hard thing and sit back and say, and that's what I had to do. I had to keep telling him, no, no, no. Finally, he went and found one, and it was a one piece. Like I told him, he found one. He was like, all right, let me go ahead and go with that one. I said, okay. So I went and put the text on it or what have you. And I sent it over to him. We never talked again. And it frustrated me, because it was never designed to separate, like, to not that I was trying to build anything with this guy, but I'm saying it was, for me, I thought we'd be cool. But instead, it turned into something where we both walked away frustrated. We both walked away frustrated, because here I am trying to be a blessing. And I need you to hear me when I say this. I need you to hear me clearly. He didn't know how to be blessed. Oh, God been ministering to me for many years about this. A lot of people genuinely, this is why I love my personality. I've learned a lot of people genuinely don't know how to be blessed. See, the giver, the person who has the gift of giving, if you get some discernment and you surrender that gift to God and you get some teeth over there, oh, you will learn some stuff. You will learn some stuff. You come to learn that most people don't know how to be blessed, because they have no self-control. The minute God opens up a window for them and God says, go in here, they don't understand. Like Esther asked for wisdom. But you know what? The Lord, this person has extended this opportunity for me. Father, don't let me take more than I should. Give me wisdom. Give me wisdom. No, what they do is they come in and they start grabbing everything that they don't need. They grab everything because they still dealing with a bread and cheese welfare mentality, a survivor's mentality. And a survivor's mentality is if it's free, I'm gonna take it whether I need it or not. If it's free, I'm gonna take it whether I need it or not. I'm gonna come in because you open it and then turn around. And if you say something about it, well, it's not like I asked you for it. Ungratefulness. All right. The first animal you have to take dominion over is your flesh. That's your animalistic nature. You were never designed to have dominion over another human being, even though, and this is number three, even though the human being, you were never designed to have dominion over another human being, even though the husband is the head of his house. He cannot and should not dominate and control his wife. He simply takes dominion over the atmosphere, and the wife is to willfully submit. He has to give her something to trust. Now, what if he doesn't give her something to trust? She has to win him with her words and with her baby. Then she has to intentionally submit. And submission is natural, but if you're with somebody who's not surrendered to God, it has to become intentional. Submission, you chose him. You chose him. Now, it doesn't mean that he controls you. It doesn't mean that you have to follow him into sin. That's not what that means. It means that you have to demonstrate, you have to become the embodiment of Christ in at home. It means that you have to sit back and he says, hey, we move in here, you pray about it, you talk to him about it, and you just have to submit. You have to submit. Now, if he's saying something that's out of God's will, or if he's doing something that's abusive, you don't have to submit to that. This is why you got to have wise counselors. So I want to be very mindful of what I say. But if you chose him, you cannot choose. Y'all got to hear me. You can't choose to get with an ungodly man and then Jezebel him. Well, he can't be trusted. You got to, why would you marry somebody that you got to do this with? Why would you marry somebody that you got to put your arm? Why would you marry somebody you got to do that with? Why would you marry somebody that you have to be guarded with? If I can't trust you, I won't marry you. If I can't trust you, I won't marry you. Now, the younger me, obviously, if I can't trust you, then there's no sense in me marrying you. Sometimes you get the evidence and you get married to somebody, and on your wedding day, you're just like this. Do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband, to love and to cherish, to have and to hold, for sickness and to death do you part? I do. And then you use that as an excuse to not submit. You use that as an excuse to not submit. If you chose him, you got to submit to him. It's Bible. You can't get around the Bible. If you chose him, you got to submit to him. Again, that doesn't mean that he gets to control you. If you want to know the difference between the two, I think I spell it out a lot more in my book. What is the name of that book? Breaking the Strong Arm of Jezebel. The submissive wife, breaking the strong arm of Jezebel. I got so many books, I forget the name of some of them. But the submissive wife, breaking the strong arm of Jezebel, I teach the difference between submission and passivity in that particular book. So you can find it on Amazon, right? You're bobbing and weaving in a relationship, always having a duck. There's no trust in the relationship, but yet still you're with the person. And what happens is when you get with a controlling person, you too become controlling because you're trying to control them to keep them from controlling you. This is why it's linked to Jezebel. All right, number 4, passivity and submission are not one and the same. Passivity and submission are not one and the same. Let's explore the difference. Passivity is based on fear. Passivity is based on fear. Matter of fact, I think I got that in number 5. Passivity is the relinquishing of one's authority to another person because of fear, insecurity, or religion. Okay, I'm going to say that again, and I'm going to give a definition of religion. For those of you who you may say, well, Tiffany, I'm not of the same denomination as you. Are you saying that no, religion, the Bible talks about good religion means good practice. When we talk about religiousness, we're talking about the practice, the exercising of your faith. Passivity, number 5, is the relinquishing of one's authority to another person because of fear. Submission is based on trust and faith. That's what submission does. Passivity is based on fear, insecurity, and religion. And when I say religion, I'm talking about religious practices. A part of your religion, a part of your denomination is that you're supposed to do this. I think a perfect example is what's going on in Iran right now because of their religion, because of the Muslim faith. And in that particular, they have different versions of the Muslim faith or what have you. But for the most part, they all read the Quran. So part of the Muslim faith is, woman not going out and with her head uncovered, or what have you. And then there's this lady, I think her name was Amina, that was killed because I think she was wearing a hijab. Now forgive me if I'm telling it wrong, but she wasn't wearing it right or what have you. So she ends up being arrested by the morality police, and then she ends up being attack. She goes into a coma and she passes away. And now in Iran, they're having like this civil war of sorts where women are coming out and they're taking off their hijabs, they're throwing them into fire or what have you, because women have been subjected to, and you can go do the research yourself. I was listening to a TikTok yesterday where they were talking about all of the rules as it relates to women over there. And I'm like, y'all, no, but that's what religion is constricting. Religious practices that are outside of God's will are religious. Even within the Christian faith, you have denominations. And a lot of times when you start dealing with denominations, there can be a misunderstanding of the scriptures. And when there's a misunderstanding of the scriptures, then you will have that religion that will rob a woman of a voice that God gave her. They will rob a woman of her voice that God gave her because they're reading scriptures, for example, that Apostle Paul wrote to a specific church. Not Apostle Paul did not have the authority or the legality to establish another set of commandments. Jesus came and he redeemed us from the curse of the law. He fulfilled the law. He didn't necessarily abolish it. He fulfilled it. That means he satisfied it. Nevertheless, for whatever reason, a lot of religions, and I studied with plenty of religions growing up because I was curious, especially when I was a young woman in my teenage and early stages or what have you. I wanted to know the difference between a lot of these different religions and their religious beliefs or what have you. But a lot of it is based on letters that Apostle Paul wrote to, for example, the Galatian church, the church of Thyatira, the church of Ephesia. It wasn't, he didn't have the legality or the authority to establish new laws, like a new set of commandments. But a lot of religions base that and say, well, a woman is not to pray with her head uncovered, or a woman, you don't speak out in church or what have you. And they take that literally. The black and white letters on a page, they take that literally and say, literally, this is what you're not supposed to do. And one thing you'll know about religion is very constricting, which is why one of the things that you'll find in a lot of religions, or when you find a lot of religiousness, what you'll find is, like I said, a lot of women that's been silenced, and you'll find men who are struggling. You'll find men who are struggling with maybe self-control, some type of self-control in one area. Because what ends up happening is whenever you get into that, whenever you begin to constrict the lesser of the two, or whenever you start constricting somebody who's weaker than yourself, then your prayers can be hindered as a man. Your prayers can be hindered or what have you. So that's another story for another day. But passivity and submission are not one and the same. Number 5 is passivity is the relinquishing of one's authority to another person because of fear, insecurity, or religion. Again, there's good religion and there's bad religion. There's good religion and there's bad religion. And one of the ways that I've learned, and I had to go on my own journey. I grew up Baptist. I had to go on my own journey looking for Christ. I studied with Mormons. I studied with Jehovah's Witnesses. I studied with quite a few faiths or what have you. I had to go on my own journey to find Christ. And in my journey to find Christ, I found that the way to discover him was not for me to listen to somebody tell me, well, you see, this is in your Bible, and they're not practicing that. And every denomination has something they can show you in the Bible that's not being practiced by another denomination. And that's what they base their religion off of. They will base, we prophesy in part. They base their religion off of a one area of revelation that they have. So you got all these different pieces of revelation, and then at the same time, you have all these different understandings. And sometimes a lot of the understandings that people have are not coming from God. It's just black and white letters on a page. In order to understand the word of God, you need the spirit of God. That's the way it goes. So the way that you find, if you find yourself ever curious and trying to find God and trying to find out where God is not interested in religion. He's interested in relationship. You find God on your knees. You find God by studying your own word. You find God by saying, God, give me understanding of what I'm about to read in your word. You have to pursue him for yourself. You have to go on your journey to pursue him for yourself. You have to sit back and say, God, I need you. And there are all these voices around. I don't know which one to believe. And God's going to say, crack that Bible open. He's going to say, praise me, study the word, ask for understanding before you read the word, and then let that lead. Because as over the course of time, the Holy Spirit will speak to you through the word. And over the course of time, when you go study with people, you'll say, yeah, that sounds good. That was right, but that was wrong. That was right, but that was wrong. So, number 5, passivity is the relinquishing of one's authority to another person because of fear. I'm scared that you'll walk away from me. So I'm going to do what you told me to do because I'm scared. You can be in a relationship scared to lose a man. That's passivity. That's not submission. Submission is based on trust. Submission is based on trust. You know what? I see that you're consistent. I see that you always take out the trash, so I'm not going to try to take it out. You always do that. So I can submit to that. Now, if you don't do it, then what I have to do is I have to intentionally submit, because if you say, I told you don't touch that trash, but baby, you don't ever take it out. I told you don't touch that trash. Then I may have to intentionally submit. And if I'm intentionally submitting, he's still not taking out the trash. Then we start getting demonic spirits or roaches in our house. Not demons, roaches aren't demonic spirits, but I'm just trying to give you a picture of what happens when you don't take out the trash in your soul. You start getting invasions or invaders. But if we're not taking out the trash and he's still, and I'm like, babe, you're not taking it out. You keep telling me, and I'm trying to submit, but you're not taking out the trash. Now it then moved over to roaches, and roaches are going to lead to spiders. Spiders, eventually we're going to have rats, and then snakes are going to come in. We can't keep doing that. So over the course of time, what I have to do is over there, I'm going to have to go get some wise counsel. Now I got to talk. I got to go over his head. I got to talk to Christ. But also he needs to have an authority figure over him. He needs to have somebody that he submits to. So I'm going to talk to our leaders. I'm going to talk to people in his life and say, hey, I've been talking to him. He refuses to take the trash out. And now we've been having this problem, having that problem. He has so much pride or what have you. But you can't marry somebody. It is asinine to marry somebody who's not submitted to somebody else. First and foremost, they need to be submitted to God. And when I say submitted to God, I don't mean Christian. Yes, he's supposed to be saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Spirit. But just having a Christian title is not enough. He needs to fear God. The Bible says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. It's the fear of the Lord. He needs to fear God. That means that he sits back in fear and trembling and he says, you know what? I ain't gonna lie. Man, I like to bag you, but we ain't married. Because I fear God, I won't touch you because I love God. And you know what? Perfect love casts out fear. His love for God, when his love is perfected, he no longer has to do stuff or refrain from doing something because he's scared of going to hell. He do it because he loves God. He do it because I love God. And I never want to dishonor him by disobeying or dishonoring my body or dishonoring yours. I never want to dishonor my body or dishonor yours. So I'm gonna wait this thing out. And I'm gonna say this, and I know we're not talking relationships, but I gotta go here. If a man refuses to honor your body, it's because he doesn't honor his own. And if he doesn't honor his own, he hasn't cast a mote out of his own eye because he has not submitted himself to God. And if he has not submitted himself to God, he moves in a realm of dishonor, which means he walks in a curse. And if he's walking in a curse, you don't want to submit, you don't want to marry him because you're going to go under a curse. He's the head of his household. Okay, we can move from there. Passivity is the relinquishing of one's authority to another person because of fear. Fear, I'm scared I'm gonna lose you. Insecurity or religion. That means if you have not had your own relationship with God, then you will allow yourself to be controlled by religion. You'll go into a religion and they'll say, hey, it's a sin for a woman to not shave her armpits. So now you walking around with hairy armpits, hairy legs, you walking around, you bushy all over the place, and you scared because they told you that if you don't shave your armpits, you're gonna go to hell. What? Because if you don't shave your armpits, if you draw your eyebrows, you put on makeup, because that's what religion does. Religion bursts fear, which is why when you're dealing with a religious spirit, most of the times it partners with Jezebel. You get somebody that came out of a religious church. They typically have the loudest and most craziest deliverances because they had a spirit of fear. Perfect love cast out fear. Who is God? Love. But perfect love means mature love. When your love matures, it casts out fear. And this is when you are moving into the realm of relationship. That means that I love God and I know that God ain't trying to send me to hell. God ain't sitting up there watching me and say, aha, was that eyeliner? Huh? Was that eyeliner? Did you just speak in church? I'm sorry, God, I coughed. And I was trying to tell this person I don't have COVID. But did you just speak in church? Oh my gosh. I spoke while having a vagina. That's not how that works. This is why relationship is so important. This is why having a relationship is so important. Relationship helps you to understand and knowing history of the Bible. You got to understand context because you don't want to just read the Bible from one dimension. You want to always pray. Holy Spirit gives you understanding. Sister Tricia, God bless you. God bless you. Thank you, sis. All right, let's move on. Number 6 was the last one for this particular one. Passivity is control in its baby stages, in its infant stages. That's why I called it Jezebel. Passivity is Jezebel. It is the spirit of control and the spirit of witchcraft in the baby stages. You got to hear me. I was trying to do a message today. I was trying to do it on a little podcast thing or what have you, but I ended up not recording it. I ended up not publishing it. I deleted it or what have you. But I was talking about one of the things I've noticed over the course of time is I've worked with plenty of people. And one of the things I've noticed is that some of my worst clients were people, for example, who have said, or some of the people, not even just clients, but people I've known, some of the worst people that I've come in contact with that have had the most controlling spirits were people who complained about being passive and being dominated and controlled in their lives, especially being dominated and controlled by their parents, one of their parents. All my life, it's always been people trying to control me. Every time I went, or what have you. And the reason I said that they were the hardest people to work with, or even the hardest people that many times to be friends with, because they don't realize that they also picked up that spirit. But it comes in as passivity. It comes in as covert control. It comes in as covert narcissism. And so in their attempt to not be controlled, they become controlling. So in the realm of business, for example, I've had people, I've done business, and I'm talking about plenty. I've done business with a lot of people, thousands of people. So don't nobody come if you done business with me and say, well, Tiffany, I kind of butted heads with you when we were doing business. Don't think I'm talking about you or what have you. I'm talking about just life in general, just patterns I've seen with people. One of the things I got a chance to see was that the most controlling people were passive. They were typically passive. They had passive control. So what they would do is they will violate a rule that's published, right? For example, if they're getting, let's say, a logo from me, and you get one free revision, period. You got the package. You can go now. You can upgrade your package. You can get a package where you get 2 revisions, but it costs more. But they may get the package with 1 revision, and then they sit back and they'll email me and say, hey, can you make this change? I say, no, ma'am. You have to follow the rule. I say you have to go to follow the link I sent in the email. When I sent the link to log in so you can look at the logo and then you can look at it. It's got the watermark and everything on there. It's password protected. I have this, the thing where they can log in, they can look at it, and then it gives instructions. Say if you approve this design, click here. And if they have a balance, they can click the thing and say, pay the balance or what have you. Or if they've already paid it out, they can click approve and they have to fill out the form. I have to have a record of it. So long story short, I've had cases where people won't do that. What they'll do is they'll email me instead. They'll say, approved. Thank you so much. No. And I write them back. I say, hey, sis, thank you. I'm glad you like it. Please fill out the form to approve it. 2-3 days go by. Sister Ariel, you're awesome. Thank you, sis. God bless you. 2 or 3 days go by. I get an email from them. Hey, Tiffany, I still haven't received the logo. I haven't received the approval. I wrote back approved. I said, yes, ma'am. I told you had to fill out the form. They won't say nothing. Pattern. I've literally had this happen probably over 100 times. They won't say anything because this person right then and there, bound people hate boundaries. They don't realize it's something in them. So 2 or 3 days go by again. They email me again. They say, "Hey, um, I haven't received my logo." I don't respond, or I may respond and say, "You have to fill out the form." Then I get a call. "Hey, I just talked. I just sent you an email. I still haven't received my logo." I said, "Yes, you have to fill out the form. Yeah, I sent the email saying approve. I understand that, but you have to fill out the form." I've literally had this happen maybe over 100 times. But why would I have to fill out the form if I emailed you? I said, "Ma'am, that's the instructions. I sent you an email." But I don't understand why you. What is the issue? I don't understand. It's a short form. It is a literal. You type your name, your email address, you click I approve the design. I understand that I won't get any more revisions on the design. And the person would go on and, yeah, but I don't understand. That's the thing. I've always dealt with controlling people in my life, Tiffany, and I don't like feeling like I'm being controlled. Girl, you're not being controlled. That's one of the things you have to understand. Whenever you come from now you see what this person is doing. This person is becoming controlling because they see a boundary and they interpret it as control. This is why a lot of churches have to put things in place where a woman that's come out of an abusive environment, that's been raped or dealt with some type of sexual assault or what have you, they have to be careful because you know what? She can become very sensitive. She think if you look at her funny, he made me really uncomfortable. You're responding to your past. That man standing right there in front of you didn't do nothing to you. He didn't do anything to you. It's just because you never got healed from your past. But that's what ends up happening is people that come out of narcissistic environments typically become narcissists or they can become relatively narcissistic. I've already said this before is that if you're in an environment of with smokers, even though you don't smoke cigarettes, you can end up smelling like smoke. Even though you don't smoke marijuana, you can come out smelling like marijuana. We ain't gonna know the difference. We're not gonna know the difference when you come around. I'm not gonna know you from the blunt smeller, the blunt smoker. Let me slow down. I'm not gonna know the difference between the two of y'all because y'all both smell the same. And you know what? You got contact. You had to. You had to. And so I've learned in working with people that people who come out and typically they may say, "Tiffany, I come from a really controlling family. I've always dealt with control. My mama had a Jezebel. My cousin had a Jezebel. My uncle had a Jezebel. My dog has everybody in the family. The family cat had a Jezebel. Everybody. People who talk like that. If you have not gotten the healing and the deliverance, then chances are you're gonna pick up that same spirit. And you'll become Jezebel because it'll be more covert control because you're too busy thinking everybody trying to control you. So now you're walking around like this. So every time you see a boundary, you think somebody's trying to control you. I can't tell you how many times I had to tell a person, that's a boundary, that's a penalty. That's not me trying to control you. That's me telling you that you can't do that. All my life I had to fight. I don't care. You ain't having a fight right here. I'm telling you, according to the rules, you got to do this. Well, I'll go ahead and fill out the form. Then they fill out the form, and the part said, "Do you approve?" They click no. Well, ma'am, you gotta submit the revision now. Tiffany, why are you making this difficult? No, all you got to do is follow instructions. You'll be amazed at the amount of people who are just that broken who will not follow instructions, and they will turn something that literally would between me and another client. It literally takes them 30 seconds to fill out that form, and I send them the design, and this can go on for over a week or 2 weeks between me and that person. It can go on for a week or 2 weeks between me and that person where they refuse to fill out the form because they sitting up there and I just don't want nobody to control me. I'm just tired. No, baby, that's a rule. It's a rule of thumb. It's a standard. It's a measure of rule. It's okay. You're not being controlled. So passivity is controlled in its baby stages. A lot of times passivity is what it does is you're going to constantly keep getting tired of being passive and people coming and controlling you. And over the course of time, you're going to become dominant or you're going to become manipulative in your attempt to defend yourself. And you will pick up that same spirit that you were trying to defend yourself from. Don't know who needed to hear that, but I'm trying to help you to understand how that works. Okay, let's talk about signs that you're passive. Signs that you're passive. I'm going to move through these really quick because I got another list to give you and I don't want to be here too long. Signs that you're passive. Number one, you fear confrontation. You fear confrontation. Like you'll let people do stuff because you get tormented with the thought of confronting them. Now, first and foremost, one of the reasons that you may fear confrontation is because you have not learned how to take accountability, right? And so you already know that when you go, they're going to blame you or what have you. And you may have had that reality in your life, in your family. You may have had that reality. So consequently, you're afraid because people are masterful at pointing your crap out to you. This is why you point your crap out to yourself first. You go and you get home and you wrestle with that and you remove the mote from your own eye and you pick it and you do this thing I call sorting. We'll talk about that a few minutes. But you do the sorting technique. You sort that stuff out before you go. That way you've already taken what belongs to you before you take it to somebody else. So a lot of times when you fear confrontation, it has everything to do with the fact that you don't know how to take accountability. And because you have never learned how to take accountability, you are masterful at seeing what other people has done wrong, and you have not learned how to take accountability. And you're used to people handing you your tail. You're used to whenever you confront people, they will point out what you did wrong and they see the hypocrisy. So it turns into an argument and you don't want to deal with that. So one of the things that you want to do, I'm giving you instruction, I'm giving you wisdom. One of the things that you want to do is you want to make sure that you learn how to do your own process of sorting first before you go and talk to a person. Another thing you want to do is stop calling it confrontation. I've had this conversation with many times I've done counseling. A lot of times when people fear confrontation, I tell them it's because you call it confrontation. Call it a meeting. Call it a meeting. So basically, rather than saying confrontation, because there's negative undertones, which invokes fear, which will make you overthink, why not say, I have to have a meeting with this person? Why not say, I have to have a meeting with this person? You have to become masterful at saying, of having conversations with people. But first, you have to go take accountability. You have to do your own process. And then after you do your process, let me say this. The sorting technique I'm going to tell you about, when I do sorting, it has stopped me from having 80% or even 90% in many cases of the meetings that I would have had, because I realized that the person was reacting to something I said or didn't say, or the person was moving in an allowance. So I had to take accountability and realize that, wow, I see that this person can't handle this part of me. The problem is I have not developed that part of me. Did I make sense there? I hope I made sense. I haven't developed myself in that area. And because I haven't developed myself, I don't have a boundary in that area. That person had no self-control as well. And so that person took advantage of me in that area. So while that person took advantage of me, and it shows me that that person cannot have intimate access to me in that area, or that maybe they can't have intimate access to me altogether. The problem was me not having a boundary in that area, me not being an enforcer in that area. The problem was not them, it was me. That's what I've learned. And when I take accountability like that, it makes it easier for me not to confront, but to start developing myself in that particular area. And then I also cut off access to that person in that area. So if it comes to money, I will cut off access to that person. I'll say, hey, listen, I don't want to do money discussions with you. I'm not loaning money to you. I don't want to get involved financially with you. Okay. So let's just deal in other areas. But when it comes down to this particular area, I don't want to deal. I don't want to deal. I've had that conversation before. Y'all do me a favor, like and share. If this is good to you, like and share. I've literally done that with people before. I've sat back and said, hey, I don't want to have a relationship with you in this area, because in this particular area, I'm not that developed, or you're not that developed in that area. Like money wise, you're immature. Money wise, you're not that developed or what have you. So I don't want to have a relationship with you in that area. What do you mean? I'm not saying that I'm your enemy. I'm saying we cool over here on the friendship side. I'm saying we cool in this dimension, we cool in that dimension, but over here we're not friends. Over here, I can't be anybody's friend because I'm too immature over here, or you too immature over there. And so you know what? It'll cause us to become enemies. So I don't want to deal with you in that area. I don't want to deal with you in that area. I remember having that conversation with an old friend of mine. I said, I don't want financially, we're not friends over there. I don't want us to talk about money. I don't want to deal with money with you in that area or what have you. And we cut that off. And that was the end of that. I made sure. And whenever she started giving me that language, you did this sign language of sorts to, hey, I'm just waiting on them. They're gonna cut my lights off in any minute, man. I had to have self-control. This is where I had to teeter again. I had to sit there and say, you're not paying that light bill for her. You're not letting her borrow any money. I don't care. She would be sitting in the dark because you're not helping her. You're only handicapping her and enabling her by allowing her to be reckless with her money. And then you sit up over there having a long. No, you can't mix your finances with her. Like you can't become one in the financial because when you start getting money involved with a person, you realize I want y'all to hear me when I say this. You do understand that you can marry a person in a certain dimension, right? Marriage doesn't necessarily mean you go to an altar and you say I do. It means that you come into agreement and you start walking with. If you give somebody just access to your finances all the time you are financially involved, you are marrying that person in that area to the point where it's hard for you to say no in that area because you've married them in that area. So I had to sit back and put that boundary up and say, hey, I got to divorce you over here because I can't give you access. You're wrecking your own finances. I can't give you access to mine. I can't give you access to mine. I can give you wisdom. I can give you revelation. I can give you understanding. I can give you insight, but I can't give you access. All right. You fear confrontation. Number 2, you rather take a loss than to speak up. You rather take a loss than to speak up. You know what? I ain't gonna even worry about it. No, you have to use your voice. If somebody is taking advantage of you, if somebody's doing something, this is your teeter. You have to use your voice. You got to use your voice. And I'm trying not to jump ahead of myself, but you have to use your voice. So you'd rather take a loss. Girl, did no, I don't like what she did to your hair. That's not professional. You know what? I'm not gonna even worry about it. No, tell her, take this stuff out of my head. It don't look good. Take this out. Girl. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. This don't look good. Take this out. And you gotta hear me in this. And this is what I learned in the world of business. Sometimes a person is underdeveloped in an area. And if they're underdeveloped, they're not gonna do any better than they already did. It's better to either take a loss and never work with them again in that area, or in some cases, if they deceived you, ask for your money back. Ask for your money back. Trying not to go into story time, but ask for your money back. So it's better to, in some cases, some things are an expensive lesson. I always tell people, I don't suffer loss. You don't suffer loss. If anything else, you pay for the lesson. In the world of business, you lose money. In the world of business, you'll pay somebody to do something and they'll promise that they can do it and they'll promise that they can do a great job. And then y'all, I wish I could let you listen to a song, for example. I remember some years ago, I hired this guy to create a beat. So what happened was I'd worked with this girl. I worked with her twice. Yeah, 2 times by that time. But she was really expensive. I used to hire her to sing my songs for me. Amazing artist, but she was expensive, or I considered her expensive at the time. So I asked her one time, how much do you charge to sing a cappella? Because I realized I was paying a lot of money for the beat. I was like, how much you charge to sing a cappella? I learned a valuable lesson from that. How much you charge to sing a cappella? She gave me the price. I was like, okay, cool. So I paid her. So I'm like, okay. After she sung it for me, she sent it, it's just a cappella, no beat and all that. So I'm like, okay, now I gotta find somebody that and I ended up going to one of those websites where you can find people it's just a website for artists. You can find people that sing songs, beats, all of that. It's just a musician website. I ended up finding this guy on there and he advertised that he did beats. So I sent him the song and I was like, can you make a beat for this? He's like, sure. So I paid him. And I said, no, I made sure because he advertised custom beats. I learned a lesson. I sent it to him and he sent me it back almost immediately, not too long. And the beat didn't go with the song. The tempo was off. And I'm sitting there listening to it, and it's just like she's singing, and then the beat hitting all across the head and in the throat and everything. And I'm like, it was an ear sore. So immediately, I realized he doesn't have the skill. Immediately, like I didn't even want to do over from him, and I'm easy to work with. I didn't even want to do over from him. And I was like, sir, this does not sound good. This is not custom for this song. He's like, it's a custom beat. And one of the things I had to learn was that when somebody says a custom beat, they mean they made the beat, but it doesn't mean it's custom to your song. It wasn't custom to that song. This dude likely had a beat library, and he took a beat that he had and he threw it on top of that song. And there were parts where it flowed, and then there are other parts where the beat would hit her. It'd just hit her across the head, hit her in the throat, or what have you. And I'm just like, eh. It was an ear sore. So I told him at first, he was like, well, I've already sent the beat. And I'm like, sir, this does not sound good. I cannot use this. So finally he agreed to go back and redo it, to put another beat on it or what have you. He does it the next day. He sends it to me again. The beat now hitting the lady in the eye. It's like it's hitting, like there were times where it would flow, and then other times it's like she was singing at a pace, but it was faster than her. And I'm talking about the beat was going like 90 miles an hour. She was going like 85. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, sir, no. So I said, hey, can you just give me my money back? I said, just give me a refund. I'm willing to even compensate you for your time, but just give me my money back so I can go find somebody to do that. He was like, no, I created custom beats, and I said, sir, I get it. I hear what you're saying. I understand. I promise I am not, but hear me when I say this, sir, this right here, I can't use this. I literally can't use this. And these are what I call grabbers. I've been in business long enough where I've given terms to certain things. This is what I call a money grabber. So a money grabber for me is a person that basically what they do is, sorry. Okay. But what they do is a money grabber. What they do is they'll just sit up there. It's all about the money for them. They don't care if you like what they do. They don't care if they do it professionally and excellent. They just really there to get the money. So long story short, I had the temptation like anybody else. Just let it go. Let them take the money, and you just learn that lesson. No, I had to get my teether out and say, nope, this is not okay. I had to sit back and say, by this time I had teeth in that area, but I'm like, sir, no, this is not okay. So what I did was I knew that this wasn't custom. And somehow I did research and I found the beat online. I ended up finding the beat online. And I was like, sir, I found the beat. This is not a customized beat. And he goes into um this stuff or what have you. So long story short, I reach out to the website. I file on the website to get my money back. The first lady I talked to, she wasn't willing. She was just being ugly and mean. I'm talking about really ugly. And I ended up filing again. And I ended up talking to this guy, and he was like, "Oh, I completely agree." This guy, because the guy even was trying to give me his WhatsApp numbers, like, let's talk on WhatsApp. Let's talk. And I'm like, no, I don't want to talk on WhatsApp. I want my money back. This is a hot mess. Now, that's in the world of business, you deal with stuff like that. Sometimes you have to take a loss. If the person did work or what have you, and you just didn't do your due diligence to look at their portfolio, other times you have to sit back and say, this is not what you advertised. This is not what you advertised. So they end up giving me my money back in that particular situation. But there have been times where I've taken losses in business. There have been times where I've just sat back and said, okay, you know what? I have to leave this alone. Right now, I'm struggling because I had a guy that did the same thing. He sung a song, sent it to me the next day. Next day. And you know what? It's a hot mess. It's a hot mess. And I reached back out. I said, sir, I cannot use this. This right here is not good. Usually when I hire artists, it's taking about a week and a half, 2 weeks, sometimes a week at minimum. This right here, I can't use this. The beat hitting them all across the head and across. And hitting them all over the place. But that's what happens in the world of business. That's what happens in the world of business. But you rather take a loss than to speak up. You have to speak up. Number 3, you allow people, and these are signs that you are passive. Number 3, you allow people to walk over you or speak over you repeatedly until it becomes a culture in your relationship. You allow a person to walk over you or to speak over you until it becomes a culture in your relationship. And what happens with passive people is that when it becomes a culture, people start expecting that of you. It becomes natural for them to speak over you. It becomes natural for them to walk over you, and you always walk away offended, and they don't know it. And the next thing you know, when you show back up, you end up discarding people all the time, because every time you come across people, you find that, hey, wherever you don't take control, another person will. See, what in any healthy relationship, there has to be a measure of durability, flexibility, and strength. That means that you have to be strong in any given relationship. There has to be give and there has to be take. There in any given relationship, that means that there is it's like both of y'all have to be strong, but at the same time, sometimes you have to give and sometimes you have to take. There has to be give and there has to be take. But if you're always allowing people to speak up, now let me say this. For me, a lot of times when I get around people, I'm not a person that likes to push my voice over a lot of persons. That's just not my thing. If you happen to be a person that's given to much speech, I will let you talk. If you happen to be a person that just constantly talking, I'm just not gonna fool with you like that. But I'm not. But at the same time, if you say something crazy or wrong, I will speak or what have you. But you allow people to walk over you or speak over you repeatedly until it becomes the culture. And so, in cases like that, what typically happens, y'all are disappointing me, y'all. Some of y'all ain't liking and sharing. The numbers on here are really low on tonight. So do me a favor, like and share. I want to see some engagement. If this is good to you, show me some engagement, guys. But you, where was I? You allow people to walk over you or speak over you. You allow people to walk over you or speak over you repeatedly until it becomes a culture in your relationship. It becomes a habit. It becomes something that people expect from you. And then the minute you do speak up, it triggers them because they've never seen that before. The minute that you do speak up, it triggers them because they're not used to that. They're not accustomed to that. And they can define it as control. They can define it as you being mad at them because they've never seen it. They've never heard your voice before. I can say this, and I'm going to go ahead and move on. Um, my dog Milo, there was a season in his life where he literally didn't bark. Like it was very, 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 very rare to the point where I wondered if the dog could bark at all. So the first time when he started using his voice, I looked at the dog and said, "Oh, you can bark. You can bark." Matter of fact, I can honestly say, now I've heard him yelping, crying when I first got him. Anytime I leave the house, he all that stuff. But right now, he is so confident that this dog, y'all have seen him. He go off. He will be up there barking and going off at the door, what have you. But it surprised me when he first started using his voice. It surprised me when he first started using his voice. So if you're not accustomed to using your voice, then people will become accustomed to, they'll have a habit of speaking over you and not realize that they're doing that because that's the culture. You are creating that culture. And a lot of times what people do when you're dealing with passivity is you'll create a culture that you don't like, and then you'll remove yourself from the situation because people will speak out when you don't. And so what you have to learn to do is you have to learn, and I know this is not going to sound right. The numbers can go down. I don't care. I'm going to teach. But this may not sound right. But what you have to do is sometimes you have to cut people off. When I say cut them off, I'm talking about cut them off in conversation. You have to cut them off in conversation. Sometimes you have to speak up in there. If they keep on, yeah, but girl, girl, stop. And they look at you, girl, stop cutting me off. I've done that plenty of times with people. Listen, I'll sit back and I'll listen and let you keep going on, let you cut me off so long. But after a while, I don't want that to be a habit, especially if I want you around. Girl, stop. Let me finish a thought. Let me finish a sentence. Let's stop playing double dutch. You're not a better double dutch player. Be quiet sometimes. Oh, girl, dang, okay. I'm not being mean. I'm just saying you have a bad habit of cutting people off. It's okay to tell people that. I can't tell you how many. My personality comes off as passive until people keep doing it, and I be like, stop it. Goodness gracious, you just yapped to hear yourself yapping. You are a Jezebel in conversation. Be quiet, girl. Stop talking so much. Okay, I don't stop cutting people off. Sometimes you gotta interrupt them and say, stop. Let me finish a thought. And when you keep doing that, hear me when I say this. If it's demonic, if it's something that they got a problem with control, they're going to get away from you. They'll be like, okay. And you keep doing it. When you talk, they're going to become more conscious of it. Oh, I'm sorry. And when you're talking, you're going to notice they do this right here. Okay. Could you not do that, girl? Because what that's you're signaling me to shut up, that you're not listening or what have you. So you gotta practice using your ears. You gotta practice it. Try it. When I'm talking, give me eye contact like I give it to you. Listen like I engage. Give me feedback. Let me just shake your head. Okay? Use body language. Okay. They're gonna get away from you. They're gonna get away from you. I ain't gonna say that's fun for me, but I'll say it has been fun to let people feel certain to us. Let people do what they're gonna do. They're gonna show you where they have issues with control, and then say stop and tell them, hey, stop doing that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Listen sometimes. Don't keep cutting in, because what you're showing me is that you're not interested in hearing what I have to say, and at the same time, you just have a lot to say. So I think you should, honestly, I think you should get off this phone and talk to yourself. I think you should get off this phone and talk to yourself, because you're not interested in a conversation. You're interested in hearing yourself speak. And I'm girl. I don't want to be on the phone talking to myself, because that's what's happening right now. Because you ain't listening to me, so now I'm talking to myself. And yeah, I don't mind talking to myself. No shame in my game. I will talk to myself. And so, with that being said, listen, if I'm just gonna be talking to myself, I might as well get off this phone. Okay, signs that you're too passive. You allow people to walk over you. Number 4, you're known for being too nice. You're known for being too nice. Every time you look around, people always say, you're just too nice. You're just too nice. You're too nice. There's nothing wrong with being nice. Most of us have, a lot of us have the gift of charity, but you also have to have the spirit of discernment, and you have to have boundaries. And not only have boundaries, you have to enforce those boundaries. Get my book of boundaries, it'll bless your whole wild life. But you have to enforce your boundaries. You have to enforce them. You have to, one, and I talk about this in the book of boundaries. I'll give the definition of solidify. You have to solidify your boundaries. That means you got to make them solid. That means they can't have any give. They can't be flexible. They can't be fluid. You have to solidify your boundaries. Then the hardest part is you have to publish them. That means you got to make people aware of them, and you have to enforce them. That's the hardest part for most people. That's the hardest part. Most people will sit back. Power to the people, Tiffany. I agree. I'm going to, you know what? I'm setting boundaries tonight. Tomorrow. Hey, did you publish them? No, I haven't told her yet. You got to publish them. That means you got to make it known to people. And then you have to solidify them. You have to solidify them, you have to publish them, and then you have to enforce them. That means I sit back and once I publish it, you are now accountable. You're now responsible. Hey, sis, I told you to stop cutting me off. I don't cut you off. I'm asking you to stop cutting me off. And if she cuts you off again, then you know what? I'm not going to be that close to her, because I'm not going to avail myself to have too many conversations with her, because she doesn't know how to have a conversation, a mutually beneficial conversation. She's controlling. She wants to talk to be heard. So you know what? She going to voicemail. She going to voicemail. And I ain't calling her back unless I want to. And if I call her back, I'm still not going to allow her, because in that moment, I'm sitting there and I'm saying, yeah, I'm not doing this. Because in an area where there's no respect, the person loses access. No, I'm not getting on this phone and sitting up and just listening to her talk for the next 2 hours. Yeah. I heard you. But so, girl, let me tell you this. Stop. You're known for being too nice. Number 5, you isolate yourself out of fear of being controlled. You isolate yourself out of fear of being controlled. You're afraid of people controlling you, so you just don't go to church. You don't like going to jobs. You go sit in the corner at your job. You're just isolating yourself. Rather than develop your teeth, you would rather sit in the corner with the gums. You'd rather stay at home and have gums than to get out and get some teeth. You'd rather sit in the corner and isolate yourself with gums than allow God to put you in those hard situations so you can develop your teeth. I was telling this to a brother in Christ, and I probably shared this story with you guys before. When I first started getting into the world of business, I was princessy. I was Snow White. I just wanted to be nice to everybody, and I wanted everybody to be nice to me. I wanted us to all be loving, and I just wanted business to be pretty and nice and kind and all that. And after I had that incident with the woman that stalked me, and I told that story, so I'm not going to share it. After I had that incident with that woman, I decided, and then I started noticing that, when doing business with people, when it comes to money, people typically don't have any control. I noticed that a lot of people, like if you were passive in business, people will take control or what have you. And so I didn't have many rules up or what have you. So I ended up meeting this girl. She hired me to do a logo for her. So we talked on the phone. Everything was good. We talked good. I did her logo. We kept talking on the phone after that. She called me. I called her. So we started building a friendship. She started telling me about her being in business and what have you. She used to be in business. She was no longer in business. And I noticed that she had this authority about her. And I noticed that she had this authority about her. I noticed that she was, and so I thought to myself, I had this great, grand, and crazy idea. Why don't I go in business with her? This particular time, I used to design website only. I don't think I wasn't doing logos at that time, so I was just doing websites and websites only. So I get this idea, and I already had a website. Now I had a website where you can hire me to design your website. So I get this grand idea. Why don't I bring her in? Why don't make her a partner? Even though she don't know how to design websites, I think that her strength and my skill creates a, not realizing that God was telling me, Tiffany, I want you to grow your own teeth. No, I wanted to gum it out. So I talked to her. She's like, yeah, I believe that's the Lord. The Lord said something to me similar. I'm like, yes, girl, let's go in business together. And you know what? I'll make sure you get the tools, you'll get the Photoshop, you'll get all of that. And what you'll do is you'll learn, while you're practicing or what have you. And then I'll give you like the terrible clients. Because for me, I just wanted to do the work. That's it. Long story short, what ends up happening is we get an EIN number together, we started, and I build us a website, right? And she's supposed to be practicing on building and all this other stuff. I build us a website. And after we get the EIN and I launched the website the day of our official launch, I went over to one of my other friends' house. And I remember this guy was sitting in the driveway of our house. And I get on the phone with my new business partner. Now, I had did another website for another person. Since I had already designed our website, we just hadn't officially launched it. And I'd done a website for another person, and I had used this new software, and so my skill had grown. Like it was the website I did for the other person. I was really impressed with it. I was like, "This the bomb. This." So I thought to myself, I'm gonna surprise her by rebuilding our website. I'm gonna surprise her by rebuilding our website overnight, and I'm gonna rebuild it and let her see. Because we had a new level. So I rebuilt the website. And that day, I remember I was pulling into the driveway of my other friend's house, and I got on the phone with her. I called her, and I missed her. She missed my call. I missed her call. What have you? So we get on the phone, and I said, "Hey, girl." She said, "Hey." Now this is our first day being in business. I said, "Did you see the website?" She was like, "Yeah, I saw it." I said, "I rebuilt it." I said, "Girl, listen, I did this website for this person, and what have you, and I wanted to surprise you." And she said, "Well, now mind you, I got her on because of her personality. I got her on because I felt like I didn't want to be hard. I didn't want to have to grow my teeth in that area. I just wanted to be nice." Well, I learned a valuable lesson. She said, "I saw it." Now I'm noticing that she's not saying it looks good. None of that. She said, "Okay, can I speak now?" I was like, "Yeah." "I don't appreciate you doing that without my permission." What? She said, "I don't appreciate you doing that." She said, we are in business now. So whenever you do something, you need my permission. Just like if I do something, I need your permission. We are married now in that area. And I'm like, okay, listen, I did this for this client. I felt like inspired. I felt the anointing. Oh, have you? She said, "I don't care what you felt." Now, this is what I hired her for. Now she's using it against me. She said, "I don't care what you felt." She said, "I'm saying what you were supposed to do is you were supposed to consult with me. You were supposed to consult with me before you did anything. Anytime you're doing," she said, "when you're going to update the website, anything you do for in the business, you're supposed to consult with me." Was she wrong? Not really. But was she out of order? I can't even say. But yeah, she was going above and beyond her bounds. And I'm just like, I said, and I told her, I said, sis, no offense. You don't know how to build websites yet. Right now, I've never had to consult. She said, I understand that you never had to consult, but now we are business partners and you have to consult with me before you do anything in our business. So I fussed at her and I was like, no. And I told her, I said, listen, I literally move by the anointing. I said, I'm being honest with you. Whenever I feel the anointing, I typically feel anointed in the middle of the night. That's usually, and it's still true this day. I still true to this day. I said, I usually feel strongest in the middle of the night. You asleep. If I gotta wait till morning to get permission from you, then the anointing has lifted. She said, Tiffany, I don't care anything about that. She said, I'm saying in business, and I told her, I said, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I told her, I said, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I can't move like that, honestly, or what have you. And then she said, well, I'm not going to do anything then because at the end of the day, if you're not going to do that, she said, when people do that kind of stuff, she said, I just kind of lose it in business. In other words, she was telling me that right now, even though we just on our first day of business, you just lost your partner, we'll be partners in on paperwork, but honestly, I'm not helping with the business. And she wouldn't lie. For over a year, she didn't touch the business. She didn't advertise it. I kept moving in it. It kept growing and what have you. I was married at the time. My ex came to me one day. By the time we moved to Germany, and he said to me, he said, Tiff, he said, you're growing in business and what have you. And he said, my concern is that this girl's going to come run out. As soon as you get a level of success, she's going to come running out because he said, you should have never went into business with her in the first place. I said, I know. And I reached out to her, and thankfully she was cool. She was nice enough. I said, hey, I want to dissolve it. I want to, I said, you can have this, you can have that. I don't want to be in business together anymore. She said, I completely understand. She said, yeah, since that day we talked, I haven't felt any zeal to do anything for that business and stuff. And I had enough wisdom to know, don't just take her name off, but I killed that business altogether. I was like, you can have this, you can have the domain, you can have that. She was like, no, I don't want it. I said, because I'm restarting, new name, new everything. So that's what I had to learn in business. What God wanted me to do was he wanted me to grab some teeth. He wanted me to not grab some teeth, but to grow some teeth. But I wasn't willing at first. He wanted me to, I had to go and deal with the hard stuff. That means I couldn't isolate myself. That's what I was trying to do in business. I was trying to isolate myself and let her deal with the Jezebels and the controlling people and the toxic people and the immoral people and the people who lacked integrity. I was trying to get her to deal with them and just let me do the business side. And I had to learn that's not how that worked. I had to learn that's not how they work. And over that year, what it did was I got a lot stronger. And I got a lot stronger. Even with her, I was never weak, but I had to sit there and start telling her, like, look, we're not doing this. I'm not doing this with you. Mm-mm. I'm not doing this. But what God was teaching me in that was that what I was trying to do was I was trying to not be developed in the area where I needed to be developed. And I tell people all the time, business, the world of entrepreneurship, you'll get a spine if you don't quit. Oh, you will. If you ain't got one, you will get one. If your spine is made out of Play-Doh, if your spine is made out of pleather, oh, trust me, it will solidify in the world of business. It will solidify in the world of business because when you're dealing with people's money, you will find out whether they have integrity or they lack it. And you will find out in the area of business, a lot of people lack integrity. So you have to be firm. You have to have solid boundaries. And I ended up getting solid in the world of business. I had to let my teeth grow in the world of business. Right. I had to get solid in the world of business, but you're known for being too nice. You isolate yourself. That was number 5. You isolate yourself out of fear of being controlled. Number 6, you often walk away from conversations and interactions with people feeling mad at yourself, meaning you allow people to take advantage of you. And these are signs that you are passive. You allow people to take advantage of you. So you walk away from those conversations and interactions feeling mad at yourself. This is what causes you to self isolate. It's because you don't trust yourself. You start losing trust in yourself because you go to a negotiation, you go to a deal, you go to a meeting, you go to a conversation, you go to whatever you want to call it, and you always come out giving people what they want. And when you come out giving them what they want, you feel some type of way at the end. And so now you start isolating because you're afraid that you're going to constantly keep giving in. No, you need to keep going and dealing with the disappointment. That's what makes your team grow. You got to keep dealing with the disappointment, and you have to come to realize that, hey, yes, if I don't put boundaries in this area, if I don't enforce boundaries in this area, if I don't grow my teeth in this area, people are going to continue to keep on chewing on me. People are going to keep doing this until I finally speak up and say no. That's not okay. All right, number 7, you have trouble maintaining eye contact with people. I'm not going to stay there really long. Passive people typically have trouble maintaining eye contact with other people. Who am I speaking to? You have a tendency when people are looking at you, what you do is you lower your eyes. You lower your eyes. Yeah, okay. Don't do that. Don't do that. What you have to do is you got to learn how to maintain eye contact with people. Now, I understand it's a cultural thing. I'm not saying when you go to other countries, you always want to study before going to another country to find out, the rules and cultures and things like that. But in America, eye contact is major. And also, people with America's a mixing pot, so you want to learn. But eye contact. You have to learn how to maintain eye contact. Because hear me when I say this, body language is major in America. The majority of our communication is body language. And if your body language shows that you're insecure, you will attract narcissistic people. You will attract Jezebels. If your body language shows that you're insecure, they are typically masters at reading your body language. If your body language shows, if somebody's talking to you and they're like, girl, you know what? And they're talking to you and you do this right here, or you walk with your head down, your body language says you're insecure, you will attract people who will rob you of whatever little authority you have left. That's why you have to maintain eye contact. You have to maintain eye contact. It can be uncomfortable. Trust me, it'll get comfortable over the course of time, but you have to maintain eye contact when talking with people. Say what you need to say. Maintain eye contact when they're talking. Shake your head. Talk. You're communicating with your face. If they say something you don't like, no, I'm letting you talk. I don't agree. Honestly, I don't agree. So this is what I think. You got to maintain that. You got to maintain eye contact with people. You have trouble maintaining eye contact. And these are signs that you're passive. Number 8, you fear or are intimidated by authority figures. Excuse me. You fear or you're intimidated by authority figures. A lot of times this comes from your childhood. I think especially in the Black community, us being told all the time to shut up. I believe heavily in telling a child to stay in the child's place, but I don't believe in robbing a child of their voice. I don't believe in robbing a child of their voice. I believe in letting children talk or what have you. We'll tell a child, get out of grown folks' business. And while that's true, and you have to put that boundary up and say, hey, don't interrupt me when I'm talking to an adult. Some conversations are not made for children and stuff like that, but you don't want to constantly silence a child. You don't want to constantly silence a child or what have you. So you can make a child afraid of authority figures. I can tell you, for example, when I was growing up, what we were taught was that every adult was pretty much right, even when they were wrong, and we were kids, so we were wrong by default. That is wrong. You don't teach that to a kid. You don't teach that to a kid. You teach a kid to use their voice, to say no, no, thank you, or what have you, because this is how kids get kidnapped. Is they come across an authority figure, an adult who says, get here, your mother said for me to pick you up, come get in this car, come get in this van. No, you want to teach your children to be respectful of adults, to walk in authority, but you want to also teach your children to utilize their voice when needed, to utilize their voices when needed. So you can grow up. If you have never had somebody to teach you when to speak up, how to speak up, what to say, when to go get another adult and all that, if you never taught them that, then you set them up to be intimidated by authority figures. You set them up to be intimidated by authority figures. And so when you're intimidated by authority figures, you're probably not going to give eye contact, or you're always avoiding authority figures. You're always avoiding authority figures. And you hear me when I say this. That's one of the things you want to get rid of, because it's spiritual. The war is not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities and the rulers of this dark world and spiritual wickedness in high places. You want to lose that. The way to lose the fear of authority figures is to honor them. That's the only way, is to honor them and to also learn to communicate, because sometimes the fear is just an ignorance. Will have you, meaning that you don't know how to have relationships with authority figures. So you want to learn. Say, hey, let me get a book on honor. Let me get there. I have a book with my pastor. I just thought about called Honor Intelligence on Amazon. So get that. But you want to learn how to have interactions with authority figures. You want to learn, so because there are lines that you don't cross with authority figures. There are things that you don't say. So, for example, with an authority figure, I would not say certain things. There are certain things I can talk to somebody else about that I probably wouldn't say to a person in authority. Like I would not tell somebody in authority, "Shut up." I wouldn't do that. If that person, if I'm submitting in any way, then there are certain things I won't say to that person. Now I may say to somebody else in that space, "Boy, shut up." I would like I have to use my pastor. I wouldn't look at my pastor and say, "Oh, shut up." I wouldn't do that. That's weird. Honestly, I wasn't taught like that. It's weird to me. So, but somebody else that's not an authority figure in my life, I can look at him and say, "Boy, shut up. I hit you in your throat. Shut up. I hit you in your throat." So you have to learn how to have these different relationships with people. You have to learn how to have relationships with authority figures, and when you learn how, you'll lose the fear. Somebody got to hear that. When you learn how to have relationships with authority figures, you'll lose the fear of having relationships with authority figures. So you'll stop avoiding authority figures, because when you don't, it's because you have had a perverted or ungodly relationship with authority figures of your past, typically your parents. And so now you don't know how to have relationships with authority figures. Let's see. Number 8, you fear or intimidated by authority figures. Number 9, your friendships are often one sided. Your friendships are often one-sided, meaning you're the giver and you live a life dealing with takers. If you have the gift of charity, you're gonna attract more takers than you attract people that are like yourself. I've learned it's funny. Every time I get on the phone, I had a conversation with a sister Christ of mine last month, and we were talking on the phone, and she was telling me about her job and all this other stuff. And we started talking about our personalities. And this is a girl, she goes to my church, amazing sister, amazing woman of God. And there's always been that connection there between me and her. She's always been cool. And we were just talking and what have you. And I discovered she's very much like me. She's talking about, she was talking about her job and her personality, and we started talking about passivity. We started talking about how we are in friendships and stuff like that. And she said a lot of stuff she was saying, I'm like, I'm the same way, and I'm laughing. And when I say something, she say, yep, that's how I am. And she said something, and basically we're just giving different words. Like, one thing about a lot of people who are um who have strong relational acuity, and my book is coming out, don't worry, got relational acuity coming out really soon. But people who have strong relational acuity, a lot of times we give language to things. This is how we deal, and that's what she says to me. We were talking about how we are, like, as far as giving, both of us are givers. We were talking about how, and she said, whenever time comes where somebody, she's been giving, and now she may need something, she may need help from somebody, and they don't offer it or what have you. She says in her head, "Noted." And I say, yep, I do the same thing. I may not necessarily say the word noted, but in my mind, I make a mental note of that. I'm like, okay, here, I see what we got. I love my pink 13. You're awesome. Thank you, sis. God bless you. But I told her, I said, that's what I do. I make a mental note of it. I'm like, okay, all right. I see when I need help, you ain't gonna be there. So you a taker. Once I identify that person as a taker, then I change. I'm gonna change my relationship with that person because I realize the dynamic of that relationship, meaning I need to put boundaries up. I need to step back because that person is a taker. One thing about takers is you don't always identify them, especially if you're a giver, because givers are gonna give. We give, and we're not asking you to match our giving. We're just asking you to be there when we need you as well. But you don't discover that somebody is, another word for a taker is a consumer. You don't discover that a person is a consumer or a taker until you need them. You should always help back. You should always help back. It's just, for me, you always intentionally be reciprocal. Even if it's not something you do naturally, you always want to help back. What have you. But she was talking about it. Like, I told her, I said, that's how I am. I said, from there, I'm going to put that boundary up. From there, I'm going to stop fooling because I'm like, yeah, I don't like that feeling. I don't like that feeling. So I'm going to give. But the moment for most givers, we'll keep giving because we're not asking like 50-50. But at the same time, if it turns 75-25, if it turns to that, then we are going to keep stepping back because this is what givers do. We give ourselves out of relationships. We literally do. We'll give ourselves out. We'll give ourselves out of a relationship. Now, it's not to say that you shouldn't take or allow a giver to give. It is to say that you want to always make sure you're saying thank you. You want to make sure that you find opportunities to give and show your appreciation as well. That's all. It doesn't have. That's the thing. But givers typically give themselves out of a relationship. They'll get tired of giving. And if you get to a culture of taking, because a giver, one of the ways that we discern you is that when we keep giving, if you start collecting and you like, thank you, a lot of times that doesn't bother us for the most part. But what happens is a lot of times when we need you, that's when the test comes in. When we need you, when we're in dire stress or what have you, and we're telling you, and you like, oh, girl, I'll be praying for you. Okay. I mean, noted. Noted. From that point on, we not fooling with you like that. From that point on, we already know what it is. You're a consumer. That means you're gonna keep taking and keep taking and keep taking. And another way that we learn is through entitlement. Because takers have one thing about it is givers have a way of creating this dynamic where if you keep giving and keep giving to a taker, somebody who lacks gratitude, what that does is it creates this dynamic where it becomes expected on their end and they start feeling entitled to it. Consequently, when they start feeling entitled to it, the minute you say no, the minute you say I can't, I don't feel like it, I won't, or what have you, then they're going to get offended. What have you? They're going to get offended. So where were we? Your relationships are often one-sided. Number 10, last one for this list, and then we're going to talk about how to break that spirit off of you. And that's it. So number 10, you are a Jezebel or narcissist magnet. If you give and don't receive back, is it okay to stop giving? Yes. Yes. That if I keep giving and a person just keep taking and they're not doing anything in return, then you don't. Now, there are different types of relationships, and we can get into that. And I don't want to go into that because then I have to do a whole other teaching on that. There are different types of relationships. So when it comes down to, for example, like giving to a church, you give because you are getting back on that pastor. When that point, because you're giving in that particular case because that. But when it comes to like a relative relationship, when it comes to those type of relationships, if you're giving to somebody and they're not giving anything back, then yeah, you better stop giving. You have to stop giving. And typically, what that does is that ends a relationship. You'll find that the soul tie of that relationship is you giving, or what legalizes that relationship is the fact that you're giving, and they've come to receive and they come to expect that. So number 10, you are a Jezebel magnet. This is a sign that you are passive. You tend to attract controlling people. You tend to attract controlling people, and that has everything to do with anytime you're walking around and you are afraid to utilize your authority. I always tell people that demons are attracted to untapped authority. So if a demon sees untapped authority, like if you're walking around and your head down and your body language shows that you lack you lack confidence or what have you, then you will attract narcissistic people. If you show your emotions online, you will attract narcissistic people. If you easy and you give it up quick and what have you, you don't require marriage to have sex, you will attract narcissistic people. You will attract narcissistic people. So that is a sign. All right. How to break the spirit of control off of you. I got 10 pointers and I'm going to speed walk through these. We're going to do a power walk through and then we're going to pray for you guys real quick and then we're going to go. And I'm not doing a deliverance, guys. So don't, we'll bind up the spirit. We'll bind up the spirit of passivity and we'll keep it going. But how to break the spirit of control off you. Number 1, speak up. Don't be afraid to lose anyone. Don't be afraid to lose anyone. I was telling somebody this the other day. I don't know who I was talking to, but I remember saying this the other day. I said, I literally had to be okay. I had to learn to be okay with letting people go. I had to learn it because One thing I learned is that whenever you're not okay with letting people go, then that relationship can become a mechanism of control in your life. The enemy will use that relationship to control you or what have you. So I had to learn how to not, I had to learn how to truly love people. And I learned that true love will release you, whereas false love will hold on to you. True love will release you, false love will hold on to you. But don't be afraid to lose people. Because when you're setting boundaries and you're enforcing them, that's when people start saying, "Well, I can't do that. I won't do that," or what have you. It's not an option. At the end of the day, what you're not gonna do, I'm not loaning you no money. Period. So, like I said, I don't want to talk to you about money anymore. Period. That's it. That's it. There's no comma there. There's no comma. There's no rule for negotiation. None of that. Period. There's no rule for. There's no opening for negotiation. Period. And because there's no opening for negotiation, now the ball is in your court. You get to make a decision whether or not you want to continue dealing with me or not. But at the end of the day, that's what you got to learn. You got to stop putting a period where there belongs a comma. You got to stop putting a period where a comma belongs. You got to stop putting a comma where a period belongs. That's what I meant. You got to start putting period there. Stop putting a comma and stop leaving a sentence open. Some things are not open for negotiation. Some things are. You got to be willing to negotiate with people. You got to be willing to have hard conversations with people. But some things are not open for negotiation. So if I say don't call my house this time in the morning because I'm still sleeping. Don't call me at this time in the morning. That's not open for negotiation. But I'm just saying, you be going to bed late. I get that. But I'm saying I be in the bed. But Tiffany, that's not for negotiation. What I'm not gonna do is argue. I'm not gonna sit there. Sister Lasagna, you're awesome. Thank you, sis. God bless you. God bless you, sis. That's not open for negotiation. Some things, when it comes down to people violating your will, violating your rules, violating your peace, that should never be open for negotiation. And those are closed-ended conversations. Y'all got to stop arguing with folks. I am not going to sit up on the phone and go back and forth once I put a period there. I will stop them and I'll say, "Hey, I'm going to tell you just like this. I've made a decision. I said, don't call me at that time in the morning, period. You can do with that as you please." You know what I've learned when you say that to people? Tell me. They hang up in your face. I don't care. See, my heart is I'm not wired to start crying. I literally, and I don't even want to say this, but I'm going to be honest. I literally don't feel jack. When if they hang up, guess what? I'm going to put my phone down and I'm going to do what I got to do. I'm not going to mull over it or think about it because at the end of the day, I put a boundary there and it's not optional. Okay, I'll give you another example, one that more of you can probably relate to. If I'm talking to a guy and we are in a relationship and I find out that he's talking to his ex-girlfriend, I said, "Hey, that's not okay. Tiffany, we just friends. Okay, let me let you know this. Honestly, that is not even open. We could talk about what I believe. We could talk about what you believe, but I'm letting you know right now that's not even up for negotiation with me. I don't want that type of relationship with anybody. I don't want a type of relationship where your exes are your friends, but I can't have friends of my exes. Well, you can make not know you that it's gonna destabilize the relationship, and you know it. You have to break that soul tie with her. So I'm not gonna be a third wheel in you guys' relationship. Okay. So that honestly, I'm telling you right now, that's not open for negotiation. So what that means to me is this. I'm not trying to control you, but at the end of the day, what that means for me is this. If you're going to continue talking to her, then I have to remove myself from this equation because I'm not willing to be a third wheel. Some things are not open for negotiation. It's just not. Now, I'm not saying that you firm it out on a person and not talk about it. You can talk about your beliefs so they have understanding. Above all that, get understanding. You want to make sure they have understanding. Hey, that would destroy a relationship. I wouldn't be able to trust you. I can't trust her. I don't feel comfortable with that. I don't want to have that. I don't want to have a relationship with my exes. And I know you wouldn't feel comfortable, even though you say you would. You wouldn't feel comfortable. I genuinely, I don't envy those type of relationships. I never wanted to have that type of open-ended relationship. It's weird to me. If you got kids with her, I understand y'all being cordial. I understand you being friendly. I understand you actually being cool. But at the same time, I don't want to come home and you laid up on the bed talking. What you say, girl? You crazy. That's weird. I'm that right there. That's not up for grabs. You have to learn the different types of negotiations. Some things aren't up for negotiation. You have to compromise, period. In order to have any relationship with anybody, there has to be compromise there. But some things are not open. You have to be aware of your non-negotiables so you can communicate them, because a lot of times the fighting is coming because a person you never communicated the non-negotiable. You never communicated it. You never communicated that. So now y'all married. And he on the phone with Sheila. He's so crazy. And you walk up in there like, who is that? Sheila. Who is Sheila? My ex. Am I in the Twilight Zone? Is Ashton Kutcher in our bathroom? Is he gonna come popping out? Is this a joke? Hey, no, let me call you right back. Wait, hold on. She want to talk to you. Don't get off the phone. I need to talk to you. Hey, let me give you a call right back. Hold on. She might put it on speaker. Hey Tiffany, how are you? Listen, I don't mean no harm. We cool. I don't want him or what have you. I've moved on. I'm in a relationship too, but we were just catching up or what have you. Okay, I hear you. Nice to meet you. All right. Don't be too hard on him. When he heard the phone, have you lost your have you lost your remaining brain cell? Because in that area, no, don't abuse the person. But have you lost it? That's not okay. Tiffany, what I'm not, I'm not, I'm telling you, that's not okay. We can negotiate on a lot of things. That's not okay. That's not okay. That honestly, I'm not even being funny. That right there, that's a non-negotiable. So I'm saying this is something we cannot negotiate about. We could talk about it. We could talk about your beliefs. We could talk about my beliefs. But I'm telling you the end of the conversation. I can give you the end from the beginning. I can tell you right now that right there is not okay. It's not. It's not okay. That's a non-negotiable. I wouldn't disrespect you like that. And I'm asking that you don't disrespect me. I'll say this and I'm gonna move on. My ex and myself, we had moved into a house. And we weren't married. I was a babe in Christ. We weren't married. We moved out of his mother's house, his parents' house, into our own house. We lived together for 2 years before we got married. Like I said, it was a babe in Christ, all that. And I remember the day that we were moving in. You got to know your non-negotiables. The day that we were moving in, we out there getting boxes and bringing stuff in the house, and I happened to open a box or something, and it was a picture album, and I recognized it from his mother's house, and they had pictures of his exes in there. And I go and I'm like, bro, what's this? He's like, it's my picture album. I was like, no, you can't bring this here. He was like, Tiff. I said, no, you can't bring this here. You should have left this at your mama's house. He was like, I said, that can't be here. We argued. The day we moved, we argued like cats and dogs because he had it in his mind that I'm going to force you to let me have this. I said, no. What's the point of you having pictures of your ex-girlfriends? And I'm not going to say that what I did was right, because I went and I got those pictures and I ripped them up piece by piece. I don't know if I waited till he went to sleep or what. I don't know what I did, but I just remember I got rid of that. The pictures didn't exist. They don't exist anymore. I got rid of them. But I'm saying it to say that was a non-negotiable for me. Like out of all the things, we could argue about this, we could argue about that, we could talk about this, we could talk about that. But that's a non-negotiable. You cannot bring your pictures of your exes in our house. You can't bring letters that y'all wrote to each other in our house. No, we ain't doing that. Let me go get some pictures of my exes. Dude couldn't even see my exes without getting insecure. Who would? Oh, Walking through the mall. I know you gave it up. He a pretty boy. Oh, so that means you think I slept with everybody that look good. Good. Y'all know. Y'all know. My brothers. I love y'all. I love y'all. Men never want to believe or conceptualize the fact that the woman that was with somebody else, but they want you to understand that, hey, I was out there in them streets. As a matter of fact, it's bragging rights to a dude. You're like, I chose you. You know, I was out there. I was slinging ping everywhere. I was slinging ping everywhere. Not every guy, but I'm just saying a lot of guys. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, I was out in the streets. I dated Keisha, Latoya, Becky, Rebecca, her, Jennifer, Tony with an I, all of them. But you sit back and say, I got an ex. Just sleep with him. Bro, I was a thought, okay? Let's just keep it real. I was not a good person. So let's not go there. If you can't handle it, let's not go there. At the end of the day, I was not saved. I got a whole tattoo on my arm that says scandalous. I was not a good person. Okay, so we can talk about that. But that is to say that I did. There are some things that are non-negotiable. Okay, there are some things that you want to make sure that, hey, at the end of the day, this is what it was. This is what it is. And some things that are, you have to be willing to negotiate. You have to be willing to negotiate. You know what I'm right? Thank you, Sister Kelly. God bless you, sis. But some things you have to be willing to compromise. Compromise builds trust. Compromise builds trust. So you have to be willing to negotiate. But you also, before you get into a relationship, now some things you're going to realize in the moment. But before you get into a relationship, you should publicize. You should have your non-negotiables. That way, when you go to the table to sit down, at the end of the day, you can sit there and when you're talking to somebody, you communicate your non-negotiables. I don't do that. Nah, you can't have being friends with the ex. And everybody's different. Because I've learned in this day and age, since I came out of Mississippi, there are different type of relationships. See, in Mississippi, a lot of the relationships with this is just one rule. The whole thing, the objective was respect, period. Coming out of Mississippi and living in different states and living in a different country and going, I learned that there are different types of relationships. Like there are relationships where the guy, the woman is okay with her husband coming home the next day. The guy comes and say, babe, I'm going out with the guys. Ain't no telling what time I'm coming home tonight. That dude, that was that. I don't even know if I know how to have that time. I don't even want to learn. Lord, forgive me for saying that. But I'm saying that is weird to me. It's weird to me. But there are different types of relationships. So this is why you want to make sure you're communicated. Don't assume that everybody is on the same page as you. So when I ended up married to a foreigner, we had so many heads, but we were like two rams, like poosh. Because the stuff that he was trying to introduce me to, I'm like, oh heck no. I will be going to France next week. Oh, we going to France? No, not we, me. Negro. No. That ain't how that work. I don't understand that thing. I don't understand that type of relationship. I just don't. No, I should have the option. No, I'm traveling. My friend, he is going to be going to France. I'm traveling with my friend. Okay, business meeting, ministry. No, with leisure. Okay, I'm going. Like I'm going. What are you talking about? No, I don't know what. But I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm saying that you should communicate before you get into a serious relationship with a person to find out what are their traditions, their cultures, their beliefs, their allowances, and their limitations. You have to be able to communicate because some things, for me, genuinely, they're weird. When I hear a lot of millennials talking about their relationship, it's weird to me. I can't agree or disagree. I just say that ain't the type of relationship I want. It's weird. All right. Speak up. Don't be afraid. We were talking about how to break the spirit of control. Speak up. Don't be afraid. Open your mouth. Don't be afraid to lose anybody. Open your mouth and say, hey, this is not okay. That's not what I want. That's what I want, or what have you. Speak up. A lot of women, what you do in a dating process, you do be deceiving these dudes out here in these streets. You be sitting up there trying to play all passive and acting like you're all, excuse me, like you're all submissive and stuff like that. Okay. He like, baby, okay. And then as soon as you get married, you flip the switch. You flip the switch. You do the flip the switch challenge that they was doing on TikTok, what, about 2 years ago? You do the flip the switch challenge. Now, when you get married, all of a sudden you got rules and boundaries and stuff like that. You don't do that. You want to make sure you communicate that while you're talking to the person and let that person know, okay. So if I'm dating a guy and we call ourselves exclusive and we're trying to do the, and the guy sits back and says, like, he doesn't call me. And I'm gonna move on to number two after this. He doesn't call me. I text him, I call him, he doesn't answer the phone. He called me like 2 in the morning. That's a no-no first. And then he said, oh man, I just got home. From where? I was with Tyrone. We were hanging out. You know what the old folks used to say? Nothing open at that time but legs. That's weird. And I can't break it off with him or whatever, but what I can do is tell him, say, hey, is that going to be a thing for you? Because I'm not into that. I understand like a friend coming to town. I understand occasionally, but I'm not into that. I'm not into that weird type of I'm gonna be out till 4 in the morning type stuff. You're supposed to be the protector of the home. What's the point of me having you there if you ain't there? Now, don't get me wrong, guys. I'm not saying that guys can't go anywhere. I am saying that you got to have strong communication, communicate your culture, your beliefs, and then you can negotiate on some things. You can talk about those things. Right. It's a lot of it is weird. I think a lot of the older generation for us is weird. And for a lot of the younger generation, they think our thing is weird. Yet, y'all keep coming after our men in our generation because you like our culture. The 30-year-olds be coming after the 40-year-olds. 30-year-old, 50-year-old dudes got 30-year-old girls because you like the culture. Oh, wait. So let's move on. Speak up. Don't be afraid to lose anyone. Number two, use the sorting process. The sorting process is a technique I developed, and it's something that's been around for a while, but I pretty much just created a process that I'm actually doing a publishing. I'm actually creating something for it now to kind of give more language to it. But the sorting technique is basically, it's like sorting clothes. I compare it to, and I always, anytime I talk about the sorting technique, I think about my mother. What she used to do was, what she would do is she would call us whenever she washed and dried clothes. So she would always fold the clothes up and she would put my dad's stack on one stack. She put her clothes in one stack. She put mine on one stack, my sisters on one stack, and my brothers on one stack. And then what she would do before she called us into the room, she would put hers up first. She would put hers up and she put my dad's up because they were married. But then she'll call, she'll say, Tiffany, and she called my brother and my sister. She said, come in here. We go up in there. She'd be like, get y'all stuff, get your clothes. And most of the time she just pick it up and hand it to us. So the sorting process is really you taking accountability and finding where you're wrong and finding, okay, is this person wrong, or did I open up in an area where they're not mature, healed, or developed? Meaning, did I allow them to have access? Like, for example, if somebody's taking advantage of you, rather than communicating to that person, you know what, I'm tired, you always taking advantage of me, then you got to look at yourself and say, hey, why am I allowing this person to take advantage of me? Am I weak in that area? Do I need development in that area? Because really, I may be tapping into an area of that person that's undeveloped. That person is immature in that area. It's very similar to a kid. If they're a baby in Christ or they're young in that area, and you allow a kid loose in a candy store, you know what? The kid has no boundaries. The kid has no concept of the fact that this is going to cost somebody something. It's going to cost somebody something. The kid has no concept. The kid is going to run around. And you know what the crazy thing about the kid is, not going to finish anything. The kid's going to run around. They're going to open the M&Ms and be like, then they're going to see something else. They're going to grab the Snicker. And and when you find that kid, they're going to be having to just eat just Skittles and everything everywhere, because there was nobody that said no. There was nobody that said no. There was no boundary there. And so you have to understand, sometimes people are kids in certain areas. And if they're a kid in the area of finances and you're not developed in that area, but you're financially strong, or you got more money than them, and you allow that kid loose in that area, they will eat you alive. no different than relationships. If you have not developed boundaries around your purity, then a man who has no self-control, guess what? He is like a city without walls. He gonna plow right on through you. I told you. I was trying to be abstinent. I told you that. And now look at us. I ain't seen my cycle in 3 months. Because I let you come over to my house. And now you got the nerves to sit up here and tell me that you don't know if you want to pursue a full-time relationship. No, you take accountability. At the end of the day, you put food out in front of him. He wasn't developed in that area. Both of y'all are villains in that area. So you can sit here, you can point out the fact that he took advantage of the fact that you set it out. As if most guys won't do that. I got a tray table. I got tray tables. Anytime I put food on the tray table, Milo literally will not touch it. I kid you not. That dog is he is so mature. He's so trained or tamed. I don't want to say mature, but he's developed. He's self-control. The dog got self-control. I put food on this table back there or the tray table or anything, Milo won't touch it. I can go upstairs. I can walk into another room. He won't touch it. I never had to scold him about that. I would just say, don't do that. I learned that everything on earth is waiting for you to learn to communicate with it, not scold it. Because a lot of times we get caught up in trying to intimidate things or intimidate people. And I learned, this is why I've always been masterful at training animals, is because I've learned that honestly, all they need is communication. The animal is struggling with their own instinct. They're struggling with their own stronghold. They're struggling with their own survival. They're struggling with that. So you have to learn to communicate. If you don't learn to communicate, then you'll scold the animal. And all you're going to do is make the animal into a little scary thing. Or you'll make them mean. No, I communicate. I would tell him, you don't do that. No. I don't say bad dog. I don't speak none of that stuff over him. I say, good boy, you don't do that, or what have you. Over the course of time, if I take that food that I put on that table, and if I put it on the floor, I just lowered it, he'll eat it. If I put a plate on the floor, which I don't do, but I'm saying I have taken food off my plate and put it on the floor. Anything that goes on that floor is within his reach. Anything was in his reach, he will touch it. But if he got to stretch his neck to get it, he won't mess with it. I love it. He said, Milo's my role model. He won't mess with it. I think about that a lot of times when I'm having to run upstairs. I like to, for example, if I got to use the bathroom, I got to pee, I will run upstairs before I eat because I want to be comfortable when I use the bath, when I eat. I can leave him downstairs with my food. Most of the time, he's just going to follow me upstairs. If he stay downstairs, worst thing this dog will do is literally walk up, and I've seen him go to my table, and he'll put his head and try to sniff. He won't touch it. He'll just put his head up and try to sniff. Other than that, he won't touch any food. I can put it in the trash can. He doesn't rip the trash can, open it up. The dog is developed. But I'm saying that to say, if I put anything, even though he's a good dog, he's still a dog. If I put anything on that floor, it's game. It's the same thing. What he does, he begs with his eyes. When I'm eating, he begs. There are certain things that pets can't eat. Dogs can't eat. Dogs can't eat grapes. Dogs can't eat onions. Dogs can't eat chocolate. All of those things can kill a dog. So one of the things I had to do was make sure that I educate myself on what they can and cannot eat. Anytime I'm about to eat something and he's begging, I may give him a piece of something, but before I do it, I'm going to do a search. If I don't know, I will do a search. Can dogs eat this? Can dogs eat this? Now, that is to say, if you're dating somebody, you're talking to somebody, and he has an issue with self-control, then you have to develop even more boundaries in the area to protect your purity. Now, I wouldn't continue on in a relationship with somebody who has not developed themselves in that particular area, because fornication is a sin against your own body, and whatever that person does with their body, because their body becomes one with mine, then they're going to expose me to that. So I'm not looking to be in a relationship with somebody who doesn't know how to keep his pants zipped up. You feel me? I'm not looking to be in a relationship with somebody that could potentially expose me to a STD or what sexually transmitted demons or diseases. I'm not interested in that kind of stuff, but you can find that out during the dating process. If he keep on trying to bed you, keep trying to get you to his house, if he keeps on using sensuality, he got music going, he keeps saying, come on, dance with me. Why you got this music on? Why you need me alone and you playing this music? I ain't gonna do nothing to you. A lie. You a lie. Give him eye contact. You lying. I don't know if you lying to me or you lying to yourself. Either way, you lying. Because why are we sitting here listening to Jodeci? Why are we listening to H-Town? Why you want to hold me close and dance with me alone? Why you wearing that cologne? Why you whispering? Did you just nibble on my ear? Now you holding me close. I feel something hard between your legs. What's happening? I'm Christian just like you. You know you Christian and you're a horny Christian. Dude, stop. Stop. You may be lying to yourself, but no, this is not how our kids are coming to be. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna be trying to explain to Junior how you came to be. It was a cold February night. Your daddy was over my house. It wasn't the brightest idea in the world. We weren't married. He put on H Town and he just wanted to slow dance, and I gave in. After he argued with me for a minute, I pulled my boundaries down. If you pull your boundaries down, your clothes gonna fall with it. I pulled my boundaries down and we just slow dance or what have you. Next thing you know, it turned into eye contact and he went in for a kiss. Love child, right? He went in for a kiss, and the next thing you know, no worries, I threw the couch out, but still, 3 months later, I'm like, I still ain't seen a cycle. So I ended up being a single mama. No, you gotta have boundaries. All right. Use the sorting process. Make peace with rejection is number 3. Make peace with rejection. That means you gotta be okay, y'all. Can I say something? And I didn't plan for this to be this long, but I got to speed walk through this. I look forward to meeting my husband. I look forward to getting married and all that. But I literally don't. I don't find it sad if I deal with rejection from a man. I actually find it funny. And I don't know why. I got a sister in Christ who's just like that. So we're in good company. We just think it's our wine. Meaning, if I tell a guy that I don't believe in sex before marriage, and he start, I mean, what about, well, we don't believe in kids? No, if any of those things happen, like he ain't calling us, I'm like, I literally don't. I'm not. Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. I'm not care. It's funny to me because that's a person that I'm glad I dodged that bullet. It's a matter of perspective. I'm glad I dodged that bullet. I'm not looking at it like, what's wrong with me? Ain't no wrong with me. It's not wrong with him. So you got to stop absorbing other people's issues. That has nothing to do with you. That has everything to do with this man not knowing how to have a relationship without his penis being involved. That man got he got folks that come on. Right, he's doing me a favor. Right, no wasted time. That's a beautiful thing. I don't like my time being wasted. That is like a pet peeve of mine. Oh my gosh, one of my biggest pet peeves. I do not like. I'm not getting off the phone with that guy. Like, no, I'm getting off the phone laughing. Who the heck do he think I am, or what he thought this was? Because that's a waste. I'm not caught up in the fact that he has a pretty face. I don't give 3 rats feathers. He is handsome. He had a good job. I don't care. At the end of the day, if he has no self-control, he can't have me. I don't want him. Some of y'all will you will hold on to somebody just because they look good. Just because they look good. I did. I said, down. Just because they look good. Well, hold on. I got to hold on to him, girl. All right. You got yourself a good looking thought. It makes no sense to be with somebody that is not committed to God or committed to you. That's not a flex. It's not a flex to take somebody. Like, I don't want to take my guy to a church event, and while we're there, he's sitting up over there. And I'm talking to one girl, and he over there chewing on, you know them dudes chewing on a toothpick and looking at somebody else. That ain't no flex to be with him. I'm ashamed. Okay, I'm embarrassed to be with a person like that. That's humiliating. That's humiliating. If I got my back turned, I'm telling, girl, I did the short film. It was amazing. It was fun. Girl, what? No. Precious Stone, God bless you. Thank you, sis. And he over there chewing on a toothpick. Y'all know them dudes. Chewing on a toothpick, looking at another person. You didn't see him because he looked at you. Always gotta look down and then look back up. Ain't no flex. That's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. He out here making everybody feel uncomfortable. Make peace with rejection. I would much rather him reject me or I reject him than for us to continue. Because you're going to deal with rejection in that relationship either way. Period. It's easy to deal with in the beginning than to get into a marriage, a legality with that person and start building with that person, investing in that person, maybe even having kids with that person. Okay. Number 5, stop being codependent. Stop being codependent. You got to stop. And you know what? It's going to be 9 of them because I realized I got the same one for number 10. Do for yourself what you want others to do for you. So it's going to be 9. Stop being codependent or dependent on people. This is what sets the stage for passivity. Is when you're not developed in an area, you're always looking for somebody that's more developed in that area to come along and do things for you. This is what happened to me in the realm of business I was talking about earlier. Stop being codependent. Stop allowing yourself to, well, I don't really want to deal with that, so I'm just going to let somebody else come in. No. Stop being codependent. You got to learn to walk in your authority in every area of your life. And that's not to say you won't need people. Some people will be stronger in some areas and what have you. We are all different. We're members of the body of Christ. So it's always good to have people around that are stronger and wiser. But one of the things that you want to do is you want to make sure that you glean from them and not lean or rely on them. Does that make sense? You want to make sure that you're gleaning so you can grow rather than just sitting. You did your homework. I could copy your paper. Stop doing that. No, coach me. Tutor me in that area. I'm weak over here. I'm a punk over here. I need help over here. You know what? I'm a kid. I ain't got no teeth. I'm gumming it out over here. It's not working. I need your help. Glean. And before you glean, please understand that when it comes down to gleaning, you always want to make sure you sow. That means don't try to take advantage of a person because you will always lose the tutor or the mentor if you're not sowing. Your gift will make room for you and bring you before great men. You can't sit up there and just come and then you want to just take. Thank you so much. Always give, even if it's volunteering, helping, doing something. But you want to make sure that you are giving. You want to show your appreciation. You want to make that relationship balanced, or to give, what have you. Right, God gives seed to the sower. Stop being codependent. Number 6, stop scratching your balls and grow them. Stop scratching your balls and grow them. That means when I'm talking about that, I'm dealing with itching ears. You're always looking for prophetic words. You're always looking for something or what have you. Always looking for somebody to tell you what you want to hear. No, you got to hear the truth. And it starts with you telling yourself the truth. I am very brutal with myself when it comes to the truth. Sister Linda, you're awesome. Thank you, sis. God bless you. I'm very brutal with myself when it comes to the truth. I will sit back and say, that is not your friend, girl. You better stop that. I have a whole conversation with myself. That girl she took this and took that and took this and took that. That child, look, you done probably gave her like $400 worth of stuff, and she done spent $10 on you. You over, and then she over here, and then got the nerves to complain. Sister Kira, you're awesome. Thank you, sis. God bless you. Got the nerves to sit up there and talk about what she did. You, girl, you done gave me a bag of chips. I done darn near gave you what? I done gave you this and gave you that. And you just tell the truth. Look at this. Look at a relationship. Always do inventory on your relationships. I learned this working in Walmart. I worked for Walmart 7 years when I was younger. They did constant inventory. Constant. I had to learn. Do inventory on your relationships. Are they mutually beneficial? If they're not, then they're probably expired. That's why they stink. Stop scratching your balls and grow them. Oh, dudes that scratch their balls, they'll sit there in front of the TV. They like the way it feels. They like the itch because they like to scratch. It's like scratching your itching ears. Grow them. Stop telling yourself what you want to hear. Number 7, be honest with the people around you. Don't be afraid to communicate. Be honest with the people. Say, hey, listen, I'm not okay with that. This is how that makes me feel. That I'm not comfortable with that. Be honest with them. Be honest with them. Hey, I don't like this. When you said that, this is how I make. But remember, you got to do the sorting process first. But some things are non-negotiable. But don't internalize things and then cut people off after you've never communicated. Oh, I'm talking to the passive. Don't internalize it and then cut people off, and they don't know why you cut them off. It's because you didn't communicate what you didn't like. No, you don't give with the expectation to receive. You give because you love a person and because you want to be a blessing. However, over the course of time, you don't want to keep giving and keep giving and keep giving and create a dynamic where the person now expects. At the same time, you also want to pay attention to when your time of need comes, how that person responds. If they're trying to charge you, or if they're not there, then you want to go back and re-examine your giving. Be honest with the people around you. Tell them the truth. Stop internalizing it and allowing it to build up. Let me show you something that builds distrust. When you allow issues to mount before and then you unleash them on a person. I used to do that. September 4th, 1984. You said this to me. I ain't say nothing. I kept it to myself. And then September 25th, 1995, you went out of town and you did this, and this is how I felt. And then back in 2002, I don't remember what day it was. I remember you said that. Love keeps no record of wrongs. You have to communicate. You have to communicate. You got to tell the person, I'm not okay with this. I'm not comfortable with that. Communicate. That's why I said when you start talking about romantic relationships, communicate. If you're dating somebody, hey, what are your beliefs about a man staying out late at night? I believe when you're grown, you do what you want. Okay. So I'm not that person. I don't think like that. I'm more old school. I like old school standards or what have you. I believe in communication. I'm not saying that you won't have those nights where you stay out late, and that's something that you communicate. Like if somebody come into town and all that, but like, yeah, there's certain things I'm not okay with. Like you can't tell me that, oh, your friend getting married, they going to a bachelor. You married, you ain't going to the bachelor party. Call me crazy if you want to. It ain't gonna stick, but I'm just saying. We, Not if we gonna be together. Mm-mm. Nope. Nope. Not in this here lifestyle. Be honest, communicate. Because that way, by the time you get married, it's something you've already communicated. It's something you've talked about repeatedly. Number 8, take your time. Well, let me stop. Let me stop here. I gotta say this. Stop sitting there and waiting and not telling people what your beliefs are because you want to soul tie yourself to them and then communicate your beliefs once they care about you. That's manipulation. Don't do that. Don't do that. Be honest with people up front. Talk about it. Have conversations. Some things you can discuss your beliefs. If I sit back and tell a guy, "Hey, I don't do that," so you wouldn't. If I'm talking to a guy, he said, "So you wouldn't be okay? Like if you and I we were in a serious relationship, me going to a bachelor party? No, I wouldn't. I'm be honest with you. That's like, why would I? It's like me saying you can go uh just be seduced. No, that's not. Go over there and potentially get yourself demonically bound. No, I'm not okay with that. I think that's tacky. Just like I wouldn't want to go to a bridal shower, not one where there's going to be a stripper. Now, if it's a bachelor party without a stripper, yeah, but no. Communicate that and talk about it. Talk about it. Okay. Number 8, take your time and ask questions before you make a decision. Take your time and ask questions. We got one more after this, then we're going to close. Take your time and ask questions. Okay. Take your time and ask questions before you make a decision. Ask people questions, communicate, um, get understanding. Above all that, get understanding. Come to understand a person. Don't just try to force them to hear your side of a story or your views. But take your time and make sure that you are asking questions and you're asking detailed questions. But first, remember, you got to examine yourself. But also ask questions, communicate, and then before you make a decision. The Bible says it this way: before you build a thing, count the cost. Before you build a thing, count the cost, not a cost, but count the cost. That means that I need to know how much I'm going to pay to be in this relationship, whether it's a friendship, whatever it is. I need to know what it's going to cost me. I need to know if I can afford it. Am I going to lose my mind trying to hold on to you? Am I going to lose it trying to hold on to you? Because I'm not willing to give up my sanity for a relationship. I'm not willing to give up my sanity to be in a relationship. I'm just not. I'm just not. So take your time and ask questions. Don't rush into a relationship. Don't rush to seal it. Kissing is silly. Don't be rushing to hold hands and y'all. You're so addicted to that feeling. That's what's wrong with today's relationship. We're so addicted. We're such in a rush to get to that spot where we can hold hands and stare at each other's eyes and kiss on each other and get each other high as a kite. We're so in a rush that we ignore building the substance of the relationship, the friendship portion of the relationship, the getting the understanding of the other human that's involved and letting them get an understanding of you, and then you guys talking and you start dealing with those issues where you don't agree, where you can talk about those things and you can see how you can agree, because that's what marriage is. It's a slow but sure coming together of two souls and agreements. Can two walk together except they be agreed? We want to make sure that in every dimension we learn to walk together. That doesn't mean that we have to be in full agreement, because there are going to be areas where we have to agree to disagree. And this is where we come into agreement, is that we agree to disagree, or more than anything, that we agree with what the Bible says. Put some Tevin Campbell on, right? Can we talk for a moment? Take your time and ask questions before you make a decision. Don't just solidify a relationship with somebody just because they look good. You got dimples. You don't care. Them dimples could be demonized. You got a dude walking around that look good, but he full of demons. It don't make sense to be with him if the enemy has him. Last one. This is number 9. Stop. How to break the spirit of control off of you. Y'all ready? Number 9 is how to stop being passive. Stop feeling sorry for people. Most of the people I've known that have dealt with being controlled by other people, their problem is they keep feeling sorry for people. I just let him go ahead and do it because I felt bad for him. I just let him went ahead and did it because I felt bad for her. I didn't want them to feel this way, so I ain't say nothing. Stop it. I told y'all, my mom, she had this living boyfriend that was bombing off her. I'm talking about straight bombing. He lived with her for 8 years. He lived with her for 8 years, and he would not get a job. He worked at a church as security part time. He now wasn't in church. He worked there. Wasn't volunteering. He worked there as security part time. He was literally bringing home maybe $100 every 2 weeks. He wasn't making much of any money. Period. He wasn't making much of any money. So he could only afford to pay, according to him, the money bill, the water bill, not the money bill, the water bill, and bring home a couple of packs of meat each month, in which he would just basically guard like a wild pit. And you go to the refrigerator. What you in the refrigerator for? This man used to sit up there and bomb off of my mom. I'm talking about clear smoke in her house, not marijuana, but cigarettes. She didn't smoke. My mom died of lung cancer. I'm just trying to show you what happens when you don't have boundaries. He would be in the house smoking. I'm like, Mom, why you let him smoke in the house? Why you letting him smoke in the house? Well, he just go, no. He going to close the door. It's coming in the house. It's all through it. It's gotten into your furniture. It's gotten into everything. Mom, why you allowing this? Mom, why you allowing it? She kept allowing that man to do that kind of stuff because of her lack of love for herself. My sister come home one day, caught the man in bed with another female. My mom was working overnight. He didn't want to work. He bumping off my mom. Got a whole woman, not just in my mom's house, was in my mom's bed having sex with a whole other woman. Wasn't expecting my sister used to be gone for like weeks at a time. Wasn't expecting her to come home. My mom was working overnight, and my sister comes home. My sister come home. She sees shoes. She sees shoes. A pair of high heels. My mom didn't wear high heels. My sister go and she see a woman's legs in the air. She gets scared. My mom put them out. A couple of months later, about a month or so later, let them come back. She let them come back. And I didn't understand it. I said, Mom, why would you? And let me stop tolerating. Mom, why would you? And because she had no boundary, and she would say, well, he said he's a black sheep in his family. And if I put him out, he ain't gonna have nowhere to go. He got to sleep on the bench. I was like, Mom, he would sleep on the bench. I would give him a blanket to take with him. I would give him a blanket to take with him. And I used to ask her, why do you feel sorry for somebody that doesn't feel sorry for you? This man is watching you work two jobs. This man is watching you kill yourself working, and he is not doing anything to go out here and try to get him a full-time work. He's not trying to do anything. He's just letting you take care of him. He does not care for you. Why? Why? Why are you tolerating that? Why are you okay with that? Why? I know I'm talking to somebody on here. Why do you tolerate that? And every time I come across somebody, they always say, I feel sorry. Stop it. Here, your confirmation right here. Stop feeling sorry for somebody who keeps feeling sorry for themselves and they don't feel sorry for you. Self-pity is their way of controlling you. Tell you they the black sheep and they've always been treated bad by their family. They ain't good company. I feel sorry for him, so I'm just letting him stay. He ain't got nowhere to go, so he don't have nothing to eat. So I let him come by my house every day and eat. Girl, he is peeing on your wall. He's blocking you from having any other dude. That man can go find somewhere to eat. Trust me. Sometimes people got to get hungry the hunter in them wakes up. You are enabling him. Stop enabling this person. You can't come here to eat. You're gonna have to figure it out. You're gonna have to figure it out. I can't feed you. You can't come to my house. Sorry. I ain't trying to be cold, but at the end of the day, we are not together. So we're not together. We're not getting back together. I put a period there, not a comma. And at the end of the day, I'm not trying to be cruel, but you're gonna have to call your mama. You're gonna have to reconcile with your daddy. You're gonna have to do something, but you can't come. You can't come here. You're gonna have to do something, but you can't come here. I ain't trying to be cruel, but you can't come here. Because what you're not about to do is come up over here and have this little subtle relationship where you, come on, you can't come here. There's about, listen, once we decided that we couldn't be together, once I decided it, you decided, no matter who decided what, the relationship is over, period. You cannot, we're not going to end the romantic relationship and start another type of relationship. It's over, period. I don't want to see you. I don't want to deal with you. I forgive you. But you know what? You can't come over here. You got to move on. I want to move on. You ain't going to block me from moving on. I'm not going to, I can't feel sorry for you, a whole grown man. You're a grown up. And as an adult, as a grown up, you got to go do grown up things. Just like I'm over here doing grown up things, you're going to have to go do grown up things. You know, you're not going to sleep on my couch. I'm not fixing a plate for you. You're not driving my car. I'm not going to pick you up and take you nowhere. I'm not going to give you, I'm not going to buy in, buy stock in this belief of yours that you are a victim. Right? It's tough love. I'm not going to buy into that. You're not a victim. You can choose to be that, but you're not going to be a victim in my house. I got to get you to understand that. So stop feeling sorry for people. You got to stop doing that. I tell you right now, I don't want you to think I'm a cold piece of work, but I don't feel sorry for grown people. I can pray for you. I can give you some resources, but let me tell you what helped me. One of the things I watched this when it came down to my family and stuff like that. When people reached out to me and they said, hey, I need money or I need this. And I gave them a money making opportunity and they didn't take it. People say, hey, this man did this to me. And I say, hey, here go an option. I say, go do this, go do that. And they didn't do it. I realize that people don't want help. They just want you to take authority. Like they want you to come and enable them to give them. They don't want to put the work in. They don't want to die to themselves. They don't want to get developed inside. They don't want that stuff. They just want you to feel sorry for them and to finance them and to partner with their self-pity. They want you to partner with their self-pity and allow them to no, period, point blank. You can't live here. Sorry for that light in the background. You grown. You grown. Now, granted, I agree with I have an aunt. I remember I have an aunt that's was I don't know where she is now or what have you. But she is really financially stable. Her and my uncle. So this aunt was wealthy or relatively wealthy or what have you. But you know, she's another faith, another way. So they don't believe in having a relationship with you unless you're a part of their religion. But one of the things I remember her telling me was that when it comes to family, she was like, I don't involve myself financially with family, but she said, if you're helping yourself, I will help you. So she was talking about like one of my cousins that was in college. She said, I have paid for this and I paid for that. I've helped her because she's helping herself. She said, because she's helping herself. I agree wholeheartedly. If you going to college and you trying and you putting, and that means if you're in need momentarily, but you are putting forth the effort, baby, if I got an extra car, I will park it in your driveway. If you ain't got it here, girl, go to work. Because you're trying to help yourself. If you sitting up there and you got 3 kids and you going to school and you abstinent. Because see, one rule I got, you can't be getting screwed by a dude and asking me for help. But if you sit up here and you loving the Lord and you said, you know what, I made some mistakes in my past, but you know what, I'm not gonna continue in this mistake. And now you going to school and you like, but I don't, you know, I ain't got no babysitter. And I said, hey, I may say I gotta work, so I can't keep them. But I will try to help you. Try to help you find somebody. I may even try to help you, financially. I'll help you because I know this is temporary. Because you're trying to help yourself. But a person who is a victim, you never finance a victim. I don't care how they can show you 365 people that have taken advantage of them. They are no better than the people that took advantage of them. I don't know what to do. They always got to swallow hard. They always gotta make sure you can hear the spit going down their throat. No, with a victim, you give them resources. I just gave it to you. I'm about to go. With a victim, you give them resources, and then you pay attention to whether or not they utilize them. Because half of the time they don't want the stuff. They want to be financed out of it. They don't want to deal with the hard stuff. This is why they stay victims. Girl, my kids, I don't know how I'm gonna feed them. Okay, sis. There's a food program down there. They do feedings. I don't know what to say feedings, but you can go here. I don't want nobody to see. Girl, get over your pride. Remember when I was a kid, I was thinking about that one day. I was outside when it was super hot. And now it's gotten chilly. But it was super hot. Georgia heat. And I had a flashback. Growing up, we were poor. And I remember this school that was probably about a mile or so away from us when we were living in a neighborhood. And they used to have feeding, not feedings. It sounds like you're feeding a bunch of farm animals. Um, they used to have where you can go get lunch, like free lunches, during the summertime for people in the community, people poor, what have you. You can go get free lunches in the summertime. And I remember me and my brother and sister, we used to have to walk out there. My sister was really young, but we used to have to walk like over a mile to go there. And we would have to go stand in that hot line. It'd be so hot we would get headaches. Had to stand in a line would be wrapped around the building, and we would have to stand there and wait and wait and wait for a long time until it was our time. And then when it was our time, we go up in there, we get our tray or what have you. You get your food, you go sit down. We were hungry, so we went and ate. You help people who try to help themselves. I will try to I try to help you with a skill. I'll be like, girl, you can build websites. I will show you. I'll send you this. I'll send you that. Okay. And I talk to you next week. Hey, girl, how you doing? I'm good, girl. I'm just trying to figure out how to pay. Have you been studying website thing? Ain't gonna lie to you, I haven't time. Can I help you? Because you're not trying to help yourself. That because what's going to happen in this is going to turn into you being a victim and me being a finance. No, 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 no. I'm not doing that. Wait, lunch program. That's it. Thank you, sister Eve. Thank you. I'm not gonna sit up there. My kids' fathers, they don't want to help. They don't want to. You didn't figure that out when you had the first two. Why you had to go have two more? Why you keep getting left and you sitting there trying to why you didn't figure that out? Now, I don't know what I'm having feed them. It was hungry last night. Okay, okay. Let me go look up some resources. Let me do this. Let me go do that. But you're gonna have to actually come out your comfort zone. That's how you help people. That's genuine love. That's how you help people. You don't help people. I don't help her by saying, "Hey, you can come stay with me. Here go free food. Here go this. Here go that." And now she robbing the government. She getting me. She getting everybody. No, I gotta sit there and say, "Hey, at the end of the day, here go an opportunity." I mean, if I do that, I'm not gonna have a babysitter. You can do it from home, but my baby gonna be crying. It doesn't matter. Figure something out, but you gotta be a solutionist. I'm saying you cannot finance the victim in a person. You don't finance victimhood. You help people who are actively trying to help themselves. If you help people that are not trying to help themselves, then you're gonna have to keep helping them. You're going to finance and come into alignment or come into agreement with that mindset, and you're going to make them feel like they truly are victims. So stop feeling sorry for people. Learn to love people, pray for people, help people whenever you can. Help them to. I'm not saying that you should never go around helping people. Sometimes you can't help a person who's, give them. I help you one time. We ain't doing it again next day. True Bush, same here. Same here. I learned how to survive growing up poor. We learned how to make sugar sandwiches. We had ketchup sandwiches. We had mustard sandwiches. We had honey. Not honey sandwiches. We did have those, but it was more molasses sandwiches. We learned how to survive. I remember learning as a kid. My parents never taught me this, but I think that survival thing. I remember, for example, like if we didn't have food in our house and we were broke and it was a weekend, I would just ask to spend a night at one of my friends' house or one of my family members' house. Right? Hot ham and cheese or cinnamon sandwiches. Y'all, I'm gonna tell you one of the best sandwiches I ever ate in my whole wild life. I used to eat them all the time when I was a kid. Bread, melt a little butter and put some sugar in it, put it in the oven. And you used to put it in the bottom part of the oven too. Real quick, you have to make it real quick. You have to take it out of there. And you put cinnamon on it or just sugar and butter. Oh, good God. That was the best sandwich I ever had. Oh, me and my brother, favorite sandwich. You couldn't tell us nothing. You couldn't tell us nothing. Pork and beans. I became a master at pork and beans and wieners. Noodles. What else? We learned how to stretch spaghetti. Spaghetti is a stretchable food. But you have to help people. You help people. There's a saying, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach him to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. In order to teach somebody to fish, one of the things you have to do is start saying no. That means you can't finance their hunger all the time. Sometimes hunger is what drives the people to tap into their creativity, to tap into whatever skills. Sometimes that's what they need. That's what the purpose of the hunger is. That hunger made us walk to that school in that scorching heat and stand all the way in that line, but we got fed. Right? They don't make those type of ovens. I actually had an oven. I saw the bottom part. I thought that was when I picked it's a storage thing. I was like, that's for storage? No, back in the day, that was a part. It was the hottest part of the oven. You put something in there, you just put it in there. You better go ahead and put it. Will burn your stuff real quick. I used to love burnt bologna sandwiches, but once you put in that bottom part, you had to do this right here and pull that thing out. Because by the time if you walked out of there, if you walked out of there, looked at the TV for like 1 second, your stuff was good and burned. It was good. That was the bottom part was once food was done and you just wanted to get a little crust on it. Thank you, Sister Kim. God bless you. You just wanted to get a crust on it. That's it. You just wanted to get a little bit of a crisp to it. You put it at that bottom part and then you pulled it out. Sister Janika, you're awesome. Thank you, sis. God bless you. The broiler. Okay, it's called a broiler. You put it down there and you pulled it out. All right. Stop feeling sorry for people. I'm going to get ready to close. I love you guys. I apologize for this being so long. I had every intention of this being like an hour and a half. But I pray that this blessed you. You come and just hear me when I say this. Coming out of passivity is a practice. It's something that you have to do. So in any area where you're passive, you have gums. That means you have no teeth in that area. So one of the things that you have to do, you have to chew on the hard stuff. Right. So that means that you have to throw yourself in situations where you're uncomfortable and keep doing it until you finally get teeth in that area and your voice begins to come out. You start using your voice. And of course, you're going to have to deal with the gaslighters, the people that try to make you feel some type of way. But you know what? You got to keep using your voice until your voice is louder than theirs. And then they come over the course of time. They come to understand that, hey, I can't Jezebel her in that area, and they go away. That's the thing. The goal is to get them to go away. The goal is not to try to find some type of way to keep them around. My dog is coming out. This means it's benediction time. I love you guys. I shall talk to you soon. All right, love y'all. Bye bye. I leave it on there so y'all can see how he stares at the side of my head. And everybody Milo. All right, love you guys.